You know that feeling? You're listening to native English speakers, and it just sounds fast, like really fast.
Oh, yeah. Like they're speaking a completely different language sometimes, even though you know the words.
Exactly. And you're trying to grab the main points, but you feel like you're missing all the little things, the sounds they skip, the phrases that weren't in the textbook.
It's a really common hurdle. It's that gap between classroom English and how people actually talk.
Right. So that's what we're diving into today. We want to sort of bridge that gap.
We're looking at those nuances, how pronunciation shifts, those idioms that pop up everywhere, and, some more advanced ways people express themselves.
And we're using a great YouTube lesson as our guide. It's from J. Forrest English, and it's called 1 Hour Lesson: How to Speak Fast and Understand Natives Practice English Listening.
Yeah, it's a good one because it hits these specific challenges head on, understanding that quick, natural speech.
So our mission really is to give you some practical insights, things you can actually use.
So you feel more confident listening and maybe even start sounding a bit more natural yourself when you speak.
Exactly. Okay, let's get into it. First up, how pronunciation changes when people speak fast.
Right. Because when we talk quickly, our mouths, they take shortcuts. It's just more efficient.
Makes sense.
And the source gave some really good examples. Let's start with should have.
Yes. Should have. You almost never hear it like that, do you? It's more like
Shoulda.
Shoulda. Yeah, that L sound just vanishes. The example was, we should have had a backup plan.
We should have had a backup plan. And that term, backup plan, is useful in itself.
Right. It's just your plan B, basically.
Exactly. An alternative if the first plan fails. Like you're giving a presentation, your computer is plan A.
But you've got it on a USB stick just in case. That's the backup.
Precisely. And this change, should have to shoulda, it's a perfect example of how unstressed sounds get reduced or just dropped entirely in fast speech. Makes it flow.
It really does. It's all about ease, isn't it? Another thing is linking sounds between words, like back up.
Yeah, good one. Instead of a clear stop back up, that final K sound just sort of attaches itself to up.
So it becomes back up, one smooth sound.
Exactly. Smoother transitions. That's the key.
Okay, what about past tense, that aid ending, like in the word pissed?
Right. We learn it as a D or T, but often, like with pissed, it's a very soft T. Almost disappears sometimes.
Especially in a sentence, right? The example was, her comment really pissed me off.
Pissed me off. You might barely hear that final T sound. You really have to rely on the context to know it's past tense.
Absolutely. Context is everything. And pissed off itself.
That's an interesting one.
It is. It means really angry, but it's very informal.
Like you wouldn't say it to your boss necessarily?
Probably not. You might tell a friend, "Oh, my boss really pissed me off," but saying it to someone you're angry with or in a formal setting, yeah, probably avoid it. It can sound rude. Good distinction. Context for grammar, context for politeness too. Okay, another shift. A little.
Yeah. That T in the middle between vowels, it often softens to sound like a D.
So a little.
A little, or sometimes it vanishes completely, like a little.
A little. Like in the example, he looked a little frazzled.
He looked a little frazzled.
Almost like
exactly. It's that ease of articulation again. And frazzled. Great word.
It really paints a picture, doesn't it?
It does. Tired, worried, anxious. Maybe their hair's messy, they look stressed. That's frazzled.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Okay, one more pronunciation thing the lesson highlighted. Linking with a Z sound.
Right. This is subtle, but happens all the time. A word ends in S, like his, and the next word starts with a vowel.
Like his email.
That S sound often gets voiced, it vibrates, so it sounds more like a Z.
So his email sounds like Heismail.
Pretty much, or maybe closer to Z-mail if it's really fast. Heismail came late. It just connects the words smoothly.
Wow. Okay, these little shifts make a huge difference in understanding. Let's switch gears a bit. Advanced expressions, idioms, phrasal verbs. These can be real roadblocks.
For sure, because the meaning isn't obvious just from the words. Our source had a great list. First one, take what she says with a grain of salt.
I like this idiom. It means basically don't just automatically believe everything someone tells you, right?
Exactly, because maybe they're unreliable or they exaggerate. The example was about Gina, who promises to help but often flakes out.
So you listen, but you take it with a grain of salt. You're cautious.
And the lesson noted it's often used as a command, an imperative. Take it with a grain of salt. It's advice.
Got it. Next, it's high time. This one feels like something needs to happen now.
Yeah, it carries that sense of urgency. It means something should happen, and maybe it's already overdue. The example was, is high time we let her go.
And let her go here doesn't mean release her from captivity.
Oh no, it's a politer, more indirect way of saying fire someone and their employment.
So, it's high time we let her go means she should have been fired already, probably.
That's the implication, yeah.
Oh, okay, how about nitpick?
Ah, nitpick. To focus on tiny, unimportant flaws or details and complain about them.
Like the example. The restaurant meal is great, the service is great, but Lindsay is complaining about the plate color.
Exactly. That's nitpicking, finding fault with insignificant things. And the source mentioned using like crazy with it.
My mom nitpicks like crazy, meaning a lot.
Yeah, like crazy is just an informal way to say a lot or very much. And the person who does this is a nitpicker.
Okay, so how is that different from be picky? They sound similar.
Similar but different. Picky just means you have strong preferences. You like certain things and not others. It's not necessarily finding fault.
So kids can be picky eaters, they just don't like broccoli. They're not saying the broccoli is flawed.
Exactly. Or you might be picky about choosing a job or a house. You have specific requirements. That's different from nitpicking the tiny details of something you've already chosen.
Right. And the lesson mentioned how to be often sounds like Kobe.
Yeah, the unstressed too often gets reduced. He seems to be picky.
Okay. Now for something we all want to do sometimes. Call it a day.
Yes. Means stop working. You've done enough, or you're just too tired to continue.
Like the example, you've been working like crazy all week.
And finally you say, okay, let's call it a day. Time to stop.
Next, be nosy.
Nosy. Yeah, that means being too interested in other people's private lives, things that aren't your business.
Like checking your partner's phone without permission.
That's a classic example of being nosy, and that led into talking about pet peeves.
Ah, pet peeves. Those little things that just really annoy you personally.
Right. The source mentioned the top 3 from a Google search. Loud chewing,
Ugh, yes.
bad manners, and clutter. Pretty common ones.
Definitely relatable. Okay, what about when things get slightly chaotic? A little out of hand?
Yeah, out of hand means becoming difficult to control, unmanageable.
Like a party getting too loud, or maybe someone's spending habits.
Exactly. Things are escalating past what's normal or acceptable. That's getting out of hand.
Got it. How about being surprised? Catch someone off guard.
Means to surprise someone, usually with unexpected news or actions. They weren't prepared for it.
Like getting unexpected email, or the contents of the email being a shock.
Right. And you often hear it in the passive, I was caught off guard, meaning I was the one surprised.
Okay. Now, a more positive one. Stick up for someone.
This means to defend or support someone, especially if they're being criticized or attacked.
Like the example of people in the YouTube comments sticking up for the host.
Exactly. Defending them. It's a nice thing to do.
Then there's sticking to something. Different meaning.
Right. Sticking to something means continuing with it, especially if it's difficult, like sticking to a diet.
And the source clarified diet. It can mean a specific eating plan, like for weight loss.
Or just the food someone normally eats.
Yeah.
And go on a diet means starting that specific plan.
So sticking to the diet is about discipline. And related to that is stick it out.
Yeah, stick it out means continuing something until the end, persevering even when it's tough.
Like finishing that 90-day diet plan, even when you're tempted to quit, you decide to stick it out.
Exactly. See it through.
Okay, how about all set? Simple one.
Very common. Just means ready or prepared.
Are you all set for the meeting? Or you all set to go?
Right. And often, like you just did, people drop the R. Just you all set. Very natural.
Now, if things are not set, maybe disorganized, all over the map.
Yeah, if something is all over the map, it lacks focus, it's disorganized, maybe confusing.
Like a report that jumps between topics or advice from a consultant that seems scattered.
Exactly. No clear direction.
What about watching carefully? Keep your eyes peeled.
Love that image. It means watch very carefully. Be alert. Be on the lookout for something specific.
Like looking for street signs when you're driving or proofreading for errors. Keep your eyes peeled.
And it's usually used as a command, telling someone to watch out.
Okay. Estimating costs.
Ballpark. Right. As a verb, to ballpark means to give a rough estimate. Or you can ask for a ballpark figure, which is the estimate itself.
Like the consultant giving a $3 to $5 million ballpark figure. It's not exact, but it gives you an idea.
Exactly. It's in the right area, the right ballpark.
And thinking about the future, but vaguely, down the line.
Down the line or down the road means sometime in the future, but unspecified when.
Like, we'll deal with that down the line. We're thinking about the consequences of not improving your English down the line.
Right. A future point, but not fixed.
Now, the lesson mentioned a tricky phrase to say. Have you edited it yet?
Oh, yeah. That double it sound close together. Edited it. It's a bit of a tongue twister.
Edited it yet. It can blur together.
It really can. It's present perfect with yet asking about completion, but the source rightly suggested, maybe rephrasing for clarity, like, have you edited the report yet? Much easier.
Definitely. Okay, what about having the right qualities for something? Have what it takes.
This means having the necessary skills, character, determination, whatever is needed to succeed.
Like, you could say someone has what it takes to be a great leader, or that listeners have what it takes to become fluent in English.
Absolutely. It implies ability and potential. The lesson also mentioned move up in a career context.
Right, getting a promotion. You need to have what it takes to move up.
Makes sense. Now, when you've finished all your pending work, all caught up.
All caught up means you're up to date, no backlog.
Right. The all means 100% completely. Like you've answered all your emails, you're all caught up.
Okay. Need a quick moment of someone's time. Have a sec.
Short for have a second. Very common, informal way to ask for a brief moment before you ask a question or start talking.
Hey, have a sec. I need to ask you something.
Exactly. Much quicker than, do you have a moment?
And updating someone. Bring someone up to speed.
Means giving someone the latest information or news about something they missed.
Like if you come back from vacation, you ask your colleague, can you bring me up to speed on the conference?
Perfect example. Getting them current.
And one last common one.
Go out. Simple, but essential. Means doing a social activity outside your home, dinner, drinks, movie, whatever.
Are you going out tonight? Very common question.
Definitely. Okay, so, wow, we covered a lot there.
We really did. From those sneaky pronunciation shifts.
Like shoulda and little.
To a whole bunch of really useful idioms and phrasal verbs. Grain of salt, nitpick, stick it out.
Things native speakers use constantly without even thinking about it.
Exactly. And understanding these is just crucial for really getting what people mean, right?
Absolutely. It's about listening actively for those sound changes, knowing the meanings of these phrases, and paying attention to the context. That's how you improve comprehension and sound more natural, too.
So here's something to think about, maybe a little challenge for you listening. Next time you watch a movie or listen to a conversation in English.
Really listen. Try to catch these things. Notice the shouldas. Hear the linked sounds.
Yeah. Spot the idioms. How often do you hear someone say, call it a day, or down the line, or bring someone up to speed?
Just becoming aware of them, actively identifying them when you hear them, that's a huge step.
It really trains your ear. And it makes that fast, natural English feel, well, less intimidating, more understandable.
Definitely. You start to see the patterns. It makes it much less like a secret code.
Absolutely. You really do have what it takes to get the hang of this. Just keep listening, keep noticing.
Your understanding and your confidence, they'll definitely grow. Ever stop to think that maybe there are colors out there that our eyes just can't see? Feels a bit sci-fi, doesn't it?
It really does. That kind of thing, yeah. But, based on what we've been looking at, it might actually be closer to reality than you'd think.
Oh.
Yeah, scientists are suggesting they found a new color. And the story's got this really unexpected link to the Wizard of Oz.
Okay, wait. A new color and the Wizard of Oz. Now I'm intrigued. So the source is a BBC News article, and it was talked about in a YouTube video.
That's right, J. Forrest English on YouTube.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, like you said, is the video uses the news piece as a way to help advanced English learners.
Right, so it's got that language angle too.
Yeah.
Okay, so for our deep dive today, we're basically trying to pull out the really fascinating bits about this potential new color, Olo, they call it, and maybe learn a bit about language nuances along the way.
Exactly. Sounds like a plan. Let's start with that headline itself. Scientists discover new color Olo, and there's a link to the Wizard of Oz.
A link to, okay.
Yeah, the video points out that phrase just tight connection, right, between the color and the story. Pretty straightforward.
And I did notice the spelling C-O-L-O-U-R. British English from the BBC.
Yep, the video mentions that too. Different spelling from the American OR, but pronunciation, usage exactly the same. Just one of those regional things.
It's funny how even a headline can teach you something. The YouTube host apparently used it to make a grammar point.
A subject-verb agreement. Learning English with the news is linked to improving my fluency. That whole first part, learning English with the news, acts like one single thing, a singular subject. So it needs is linked, not are linked.
Ah, okay. Little details like that are actually pretty useful. Now, about the discovery itself, the article says they claim to have discovered Olo. That word claim seems important.
It really is. And the video breaks that down nicely. Claim to have discovered means, well, the scientists think they have. They believe it's real. But
it's not universally accepted yet. Like, the jury's still out in the wider scientific world.
exactly. It suggests it's still maybe being debated or verified. It's different from just saying they have discovered it, which would sound much more like a done deal, a confirmed fact.
Right. It's like saying, he claims he saw Bigfoot versus he saw Bigfoot. Big difference in certainty.
Precisely. And the video also touches on the grammar around a team, a team claim versus a team claims.
Oh, yeah. I think in American English, we'd usually say a team claims, singular.
We often do, yeah. But the video notes that using the plural claim, especially in British English, isn't actually wrong. It sort of emphasizes the individual members of the team making the claim. Language is flexible,
It really is. Okay, so they claim to have found this color that no human has ever seen before.
Or nobody, no one, as the video points out. Same meaning completely new to human perception.
All right, so a potentially brand new color experience. But the Wizard of Oz part, where does the Emerald City fit into lasers and color science?
Okay, yeah, this is the fun part. It comes down to the technique they use. It's called the Oz Vision System technique.
Oz Vision System. And it involves lasers into people's eyes.
Laser pulses directed into the eyes of the participants.
Wow. Okay, that sounds pretty intense. Why call it Oz, though?
Well, the video explains it's named in homage to the Emerald City in the novel The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
In homage, so like as a tribute, out of respect.
Exactly, a tribute. So the researchers are kind of nodding to that iconic, super vivid green city, maybe hinting that their technique reveals something similarly striking, something beyond the ordinary.
It's actually pretty cool. A nice little nod. And the video mentions something about how people say homage.
Oh, right, pronunciation. Some Americans might drop the H sound, oh, meech. British English speakers usually keep it H-O-M-I, but, either way works, people understand.
Good to know. Okay, so they have this Oz technique named in homage, but then the article throws in a bit of a reality check, right? The snag, it calls it.
Yeah, the snag. Turns out only 5 people, ever, have actually seen this color Olo.
Just 5. Wow, that is exclusive. And it's not like you or I could just stumble across it, is it?
No, absolutely not. It cannot be seen by the naked eye.
Naked eye, meaning just, looking normally without any special tools.
Exactly. Without telescopes, microscopes, or in this case, without that special laser stimulation setup, it highlights that Olo, if it's real, exists outside our usual visual capabilities.
So you need the high-tech gear, this laser system. What did those 5 people actually see then? What's Olo like?
It's said to be a saturated shade of blue-green. Let's break that down a bit.
Okay. Saturated means really intense, bright.
Yeah, exactly. The video explains it as intense, rich, full color. Think of like a really pale, washed out blue versus a deep, vibrant royal blue. The royal blue is much more saturated.
Got it. So Olo isn't pale or faded. It's a strong blue-green. And shade, that just means a specific version of blue-green, right? Like light blue versus dark blue.
Precisely. A specific variation or tone within that blue-green family.
Yeah.
So a very intense, specific tone of blue-green that you apparently can't see without the lasers.
Okay. Interesting. And this research came from some big names.
Yeah, UC Berkeley and the University of Washington, serious research institutions.
So how does this Oz system actually let them see it? What's happening scientifically?
Well, the idea is that the system allows people to see beyond the normal gamut of color perception.
Gamut, meaning range, like the whole range of colors we normally see.
Exactly. The video defines gamut as range or spectrum. Like a shop might offer a wide gamut of products, a big range. Or we talk about running the gamut of emotions.
Right, experiencing the full range.
So this Oz system supposedly expands that range.
Yeah.
It pushes the boundary of what colors the participants could perceive. It's like unlocking extra potential in their vision, sort of.
So our eyes have this built-in range, and this tech pushes past it. What did the researchers think when they saw the results? Were they expecting this?
Well, according to a quote from Professor Ng, one of the researchers, they kind of did. He said, "We predicted it would look like an unprecedented color signal."
Unprecedented meaning never seen or done before?
Right. But we didn't know what the brain would do with it. So they expected something new, but how our brains would actually interpret that new signal was the big question.
And how did the brain interpret it? What was the experience like for those 5 people?
Professor Ng called it jaw-dropping.
Jaw-dropping. Okay, the video explained that means really surprising or shocking, right? Could be good or bad, I guess.
It could, technically, but here, seeing a totally new color, you have to assume it was overwhelmingly positive. Astonishing.
Makes sense.
And he even told the BBC, apparently, that Olo was more saturated than any color that you can see in the real world.
Whoa. More intense than anything we normally see. That's hard to even imagine.
It really is. It emphasizes how different this perceived color must be.
So, okay, it's a cool effect, but what's the point? Why develop this tech? What are the bigger implications here?
Good question. The researchers believe this Oz system will help them delve into how the brain creates visual perceptions.
Delve into. Like, investigate deeply, study thoroughly.
Exactly, that's how the video explains it. By seeing how the brain processes this completely new artificial color signal, they can learn more about the basic ways our brain builds our visual world from the light that hits our eyes. It's like studying an extreme case to understand the normal process better.
Okay, that makes sense. Push the system to its limits to see how it works. Any practical applications they're hoping for down the road?
They are. They hope it might give them insights into things like color blindness or other diseases that affect vision.
Ah, okay. So by understanding how you can maybe expand or alter color perception with this system.
Yeah, they might figure out new ways to help people who have trouble seeing colors normally or other vision issues. The video reminds us vision is the ability to see, and there's a whole spectrum, from perfect sight to legally blind and so on.
That would be amazing if this research, even if Olo itself isn't something we'll all see, could help people with vision impairments. That's really significant.
Definitely a helpful outcome.
Now, we can't see Olo, obviously, but did they give any kind of picture, any hint of what it looks like?
They did try. They acknowledged that, a static image does not fully capture the color, but they shared a picture of a turquoise square to give a sense of the hue.
Hue. The video clarified that's like the base color, right? Blue, green, red, as opposed to shade, which is lighter or darker.
Exactly. So they're saying the basic color family is sort of turquoise-like.
Okay, so picture turquoise. But then remember, it's supposed to be way more saturated than anything real. And the article said the picture doesn't do it justice.
Right, and the video explains that phrase doesn't do it justice. It means the example, the turquoise square, it gives you an idea, a hint, but it falls short of the real thing.
Like trying to describe a stunning sunset with just words.
Exactly. Or explaining how powerful a piece of music is. The description gives a general sense, but it's not the full experience. So the turquoise is just a pointer, not the actual destination, if that makes sense.
It does. It's just a rough guide towards this super saturated, maybe impossible to truly imagine blue-green.
Wow. Well, this has definitely been a fascinating look at this potential new color, Olo, and its bizarre link to Oz.
It really has been quite a journey, hasn't it? From the claim itself, that Oz technique with the lasers, the fact only 5 people have seen it, how it pushes past our normal color gamut, it really opens up questions about perception.
Yeah, and how the research might help us understand the brain, vision, maybe even color blindness eventually. Lots to think about.
Definitely.
So maybe the thought to leave everyone with is, if technology can potentially reveal a color that's beyond our normal biological limits, what else might be out there? What other sensory experiences could exist just outside our current grasp, waiting for us to find a way to perceive them?
That's a really interesting question. What else are we not seeing or hearing or sensing?
Makes you wonder.
You know that feel when you realize something you thought was like way out there is actually, well, in here. Microplastics showing up in Antarctic sea ice, the deepest ocean trenches, even our drinking water. It's kind of overwhelming.
It really is. It's a lot to take in. So today, we're trying to cut through some of that noise. Give you a clearer picture.
Okay.
We're diving deep into microplastics, how they sort of spread into our lives. We're basing this on an English learning video, actually, which covered quite a bit vocab, grammar.
Right.
But we're zeroing in on the core stuff. Just how bad is this contamination? Are there any, actual solutions? And what does it mean for you listening?
Okay, let's start with that headline idea. How microplastics are infiltrating everything you consume. That word infiltrating, it sounds a bit sneaky, doesn't it?
It does. It means like entering or spreading into something, but often in a way you don't want or expect.
Right. Unwanted guests. And consume. We mostly think eating and drinking, I guess.
Yeah, primarily. But it also kind of covers the broader sense of just using resources, the things around us.
Gotcha. So how bad is it? Where are these things?
Well, the source material really hammers this home. They've infiltrated pretty much every part of the planet. It's not just one or two spots.
Every part. Wow.
Yeah. Global.
And the examples they give are, well, they're pretty shocking, like buried deep in Antarctic ice. Can you even picture that?
It's hard to imagine, isn't it? And then finding them inside animals living in the absolute deepest parts of the oceans.
The pressure down there must be immense. And still, plastics.
Exactly. And it's not just these, extreme far-off places. They talked about finding them on beaches.
Beaches, like regular beaches.
Even on remote, uninhabited islands, places you'd think would be totally untouched. And they consistently show up, that's the phrase they used, meaning appear, in seawater samples from all over.
Okay, so they're definitely appearing everywhere in the water. But it's not just water, is it?
No, absolutely not. That's a key point.
Yeah.
They're widespread in soils, too, on land.
Right. And if they're in the soil...
Then they can get into our food chain.
Yeah.
Potentially ending up, in the food we eat.
Ugh. Okay, so this tiny stuff is having a massive impact.
Which brings us to this word the source used, ubiquitous.
Ubiquitous, meaning...
Found everywhere, existing everywhere. They used it to describe microplastics in water, but then gave examples like, cell phones.
Ah, okay, like how cell phones are just everywhere now.
Exactly. Or how ChatGPT is becoming ubiquitous in workplaces. It helps you grasp just how pervasive this microplastic thing is. It's becoming like that everywhere.
So the takeaway is they are absolutely everywhere, which leads to the bit that's frankly a little disturbing, that we might be unwittingly eating them. Almost every bite. Unwittingly, meaning we don't know we're doing it.
Exactly. Without knowing or planning it. It's not like anyone wants to eat plastic. It's just happening.
Okay. Understandably, people aren't happy about this. The source mentions a backlash.
Yeah, strong negative reaction, lots of criticism, especially against single-use plastics. You see it all the time now.
Definitely. Which has led companies to look for alternatives, right? Things labeled biodegradable or compostable.
Right. Trying to respond to that backlash. And on the surface, that sounds great. A positive step.
You'd think so. But, and here's the twist, I guess. The source suggests these alternatives might actually be compounding the problem, making it worse.
That's the really concerning finding, yeah. Research show that some of these supposedly biodegradable bags, they can take years. Years to disintegrate, which means break down until nothing's left. But even then, they mostly just break down into smaller pieces, tiny plastic fragments, not back into their basic chemical parts.
So they're just making more microplastics, but from biodegradable stuff.
Potentially, yes. That's the worry. It's kind of ironic. They even use that phrasal verb, break down into, like taking a big problem and breaking it down into smaller bits.
Right, like manageable steps. Except here, the smaller bits are still the problem.
Exactly. The smaller bits are the microplastics.
Okay, so biodegradable might not be the magic bullet.
Yeah.
What about other ideas, like swapping plastic for glass?
That's mentioned too. Swapping out plastic packaging for glass containers. The idea is to reduce your exposure, how much contact you have with microplastics through consumption.
Makes sense. Less plastic packaging, less plastic exposure.
Seems logical, but, and this is important, the source is careful. It says this could potentially help. It's not a definite fix.
Ah, okay. Potential. Why only potential?
Because swapping everything to glass would have its own environmental repercussions.
Repercussions, like negative consequences.
Yeah, negative impacts. Because making and transporting glass actually has a higher environmental footprint, a bigger lasting effect on the environment than plastic does.
Oh, wow. So you fix one problem, potentially create another. That's tricky.
It's a real dilemma. There often aren't easy answers with this stuff.
So are we just stuck then? Is there any good news?
Well, fortunately, the source does offer some hope. It says researchers are working on a number of approaches. So quite a few different methods to try and actually get rid of the plastic pollution that's already out there.
Get rid of it permanently. Okay, now that sounds promising. What kind of approaches?
Some really interesting ones, actually. They're looking at fungi, mushrooms and molds and bacteria.
Fungi? How would that help?
Apparently, some types can actually feed on plastic. They can break it down.
Seriously? Nature fighting back?
Sort of, using natural processes. Then there's another one involving beetle larvae.
Beetle larvae, like grubs.
Yeah, the stage between egg and beetle. Apparently there's a species that can devour, like, totally eat up polystyrene. You know, the stuff in styrofoam?
Whoa. They eat styrofoam.
Seems so. It's listed as another potential solution. Maybe they have some special enzyme or something in their gut. It's quite fascinating.
That is fascinating. Okay, fungi, beetle larvae. Anything else?
They also mentioned more technological approaches. Researchers are looking at, meaning considering or exploring, using things like advanced water filtration techniques.
To filter out the microplastics.
Yeah, or chemical treatments that could maybe remove them from water supplies. So there's work happening on multiple fronts. Biology, technology.
Okay, let's maybe pull this together. What have we learned here?
Well, the big picture is microplastics really have infiltrated pretty much everywhere on Earth, from the Arctic to the deep sea to, well, us.
Right, and we're likely consuming them without even realizing it, unwittingly.
Exactly. And while the push away from single-use plastic is good, those biodegradable alternatives, they might not be the simple fix we thought. They could even be adding to the microplastic load.
Yeah, that was a surprise. And swapping to glass isn't straightforward either because of its own environmental footprint.
Right. But the hopeful part is the ongoing research. Scientists are developing ways to tackle the existing pollution using fungi, bacteria, those plastic-eating larvae, and filtration methods.
So not all doom and gloom then. There are people actively working on this.
Definitely. There's innovation happening.
And hopefully for you listening, this deep dive has, clarified things a bit, cut through some of the confusion around this complex issue. You've got a better handle now on how widespread it is and what's being explored to, fix it.
Which maybe leaves us with a thought to chew on for you to consider. Given everything we've talked about, the ubiquity, the issues with current alternatives, the promise, but also the early stages, some solutions, what sort of larger changes, beyond just individual swaps or new tech? What systemic shifts in how we make things, use things, dispose of things do you think might be needed to really tackle this microplastic problem for the long haul?
That's a big question. Definitely something to mull over after this. Something maybe to look into yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
Ever get that feeling you might be using a word wrong, but you're too afraid to ask?
Oh, yeah.
Well, fear no more. Because today we're diving deep into 15 words that even fluent English speakers mess up. We've got a YouTube script here all about leveling up your vocabulary. And you might be surprised by some of these common mistakes.
It is fascinating, though, how some of these errors stem from subtle distinctions that are easy to miss in casual conversation.
Okay, let's unpack this. We'll start with some beginner traps. Words that seem straightforward, but can be surprisingly tricky. I'll be honest, the word literally is one I hear misused all the time.
Yep.
Just the other day, someone told me they were literally dying from how much they had to do that week.
Yes. Literally seems to be a word that's been taken hostage by hyperbole.
So remind us, what should literally mean? Why is it important to use it correctly?
Literally means something actually happened, exactly as stated.
Yeah.
It emphasizes the reality of a situation, not an exaggeration.
Right.
While your friend might have felt overwhelmed, they weren't literally dying.
Right.
You see, using literally correctly makes sure your words carry their intended weight. It's about precision and clarity, especially in an age where misinformation can spread so easily.
That's a really good point. The impact on communication is huge. Okay, another beginner word that trips people up is unique. I once saw a store advertising a sale on very unique items. Something about that just felt off.
That's because unique means one of a kind.
Right.
Inherently special. It stands alone.
Right.
So adding modifiers like very or quite is redundant and actually weakens the impact of the word.
So instead of saying something is very unique, how can we highlight that specialness in everyday conversation?
Let the word unique speak for itself.
Okay.
You could say that painting is truly unique or her style is unique. You're emphasizing the inherent specialness without needing to qualify it further.
That's so interesting. I can see how that subtle shift makes a big difference. Even these beginner words have hidden depths. You really have to think about their true meaning.
Absolutely, and that's what makes language so fascinating. Now, prepare to have some assumptions challenged because some words have meanings completely different from what most people assume.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example of one of these words.
Let's start with irony.
Okay.
Many people confuse irony with simple coincidence or bad luck. For example, someone might say, "It's so ironic that I won the lottery and then got hit by a car."
So winning the lottery and then getting hit by a car, that's just bad luck, not irony.
Yeah.
What makes a situation truly ironic?
True irony involves a situation where the outcome is the opposite of what was expected. often with a humorous or sarcastic undertone. A classic example would be a fire station burning down. It's not just about unfortunate timing, it's about a surprising reversal of expectations.
Wow, that makes so much sense. It's not just about something bad happening. It's about the unexpected nature of the situation.
You see, understanding irony helps us analyze situations more deeply. It's not just about bad luck. It's about recognizing the unexpected and sometimes absurd nature of life.
Speaking of unexpected twists, let's talk about a word. Often misused in situations with high stakes. Alibis. I feel like I hear people using alibi as a synonym for any kind of excuse.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I have a good alibi.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a common mistake. People might say, I didn't finish the project, but I have a good alibi.
Wait, so if it's not just any excuse, what makes a real alibi? I'm genuinely confused.
An alibi has a very specific legal meaning.
Okay.
It refers to proof that someone was somewhere else at the time a crime was committed, demonstrating their innocence. It's not just any excuse. It's evidence that clears someone of suspicion.
So using alibi to explain why you didn't finish a project wouldn't really make sense.
Exactly. Using alibi in casual conversation when you simply mean excuse can actually undermine your credibility. It shows a lack of precision in your language.
Okay, this is making me rethink how I use these words. What other intermediate words are lurking out there, ready to trip us up?
How about a word that's often confused with its near opposite? Disinterested. Many people use disinterested to mean uninterested or bored. For instance, someone might say, I was completely disinterested in that meeting.
Disinterested. If it doesn't mean bored or uninterested, then what does it actually mean?
Disinterested actually describes someone who is impartial or unbiased, free from personal stake or interest in a situation. A good example would be a judge who must remain disinterested in the outcome of a case.
Okay.
They can't be swayed by personal opinions or biases.
So if I wanted to say that I found the meeting boring, disinterested wouldn't be the right word to use.
Precisely. In that case, uninterested or bored would be more accurate.
Right.
Disinterested implies neutrality and objectivity. It's about being impartial, not uncaring.
I never realized how a single word could completely change the tone and meaning of a sentence. It's all about understanding those subtle but powerful nuances.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here to explore. Are you ready to be bemused by the next word?
Bemused. Okay, you've definitely got my attention. What's so tricky about this one?
People often think bemused means amused or entertained.
Okay.
You might hear someone say, I was bemused by his silly jokes.
So if bemused doesn't mean amused, then what's the real meaning?
Bemused actually means puzzled, bewildered, or even slightly confused. Think of it as a state of mild perplexity, for example. You might be bemused by a riddle you can't solve.
Well,
or a strange event you don't fully understand.
so it's not about laughing at a joke. It's about that feeling of, wait, what just happened? That makes a lot of sense.
Imagine someone watching a magic trick.
Right.
Their brow furrowed, a slight smile playing on their lips.
Yeah.
That's bemusement. It's not amusement, but a fascinated perplexity.
Okay, now I'm really starting to understand the difference.
Uh-huh.
Bemused is a much richer word than I realized. It's about that space between amusement and confusion.
Exactly. And these subtle distinctions can make a big difference in how your message is received. Are you ready for our final intermediate word?
Bring it on. I'm ready to tackle anything.
All right. Let's explore a word that's often misused to describe something grand or impressive. Enormity. People often use enormity to emphasize the sheer size or scope of something. You might hear someone say, I was overwhelmed by the enormity of the project.
That's how I usually use it. But I have a feeling it doesn't quite mean what I think it means. What's the real meaning?
While enormity can relate to size, its primary meaning leans towards something more serious and weighty.
Okay.
It often refers to extreme wickedness, outrageousness, or the sheer gravity of a situation.
Right.
Particularly in a moral or ethical context.
So it's less about physical size and more about the weight of the implications.
Precisely. For instance, if you were discussing a horrific crime, you might speak of the enormity of the act to emphasize its moral depravity and the severity of its consequences.
Wow, that puts the word in a whole new light. It's not just about something being big, it's about something being profoundly impactful, often in a negative sense.
Exactly. It's a word that carries a lot of weight, both literally and figuratively.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground already. And I'm starting to feel the enormity and the true sense of the word, of all these linguistic nuances. What's next on our journey?
Next, we'll be venturing into the realm of advanced words, where the nuances become even more intricate. Are you ready to level up your vocabulary even further?
Absolutely. I'm eager to see what other linguistic gems await us in this deep dive into words.
Right.
It'd be great.
Awesome. Fasten your seatbelts, because these advanced words can be real brain twisters. They're the ones that often pop up in intellectual discussions or professional settings, and misusing them can unfortunately make you sound less credible.
Okay, I'm ready to face the advanced word challenge head on. Let's start with one that I've definitely struggled with in the past.
Decimate.
Decimate is fascinating because its common usage has drifted quite far from its original meaning. People often use it as a synonym for completely destroy, like saying the hurricane decimated the coastal towns. Yeah, I've definitely heard it used that way. But if it doesn't mean to completely destroy, then what does it actually mean?
Decimate has a very specific historical root. It comes from the ancient Roman practice of punishing mutinous troops by killing 1 out of every 10 soldiers. So the original meaning of decimate is to reduce by 1/10, not to obliterate completely.
Wow, I had no idea. That's a pretty grim origin story for a word. So using decimate to describe the total destruction of a town wouldn't be quite right.
Exactly. It's a case of hyperbole overtaking precision. While the impact of a hurricane can be devastating, it's unlikely to literally reduce a town's population by exactly 1/10.
This is why I love these deep dives. You uncover these hidden layers of meaning that we often miss in everyday conversation. It's like learning a secret code.
This word's bloody history reminds us that language carries the weight of the past. Even today, decimate suggests a severe calculated reduction, not total destruction.
Okay, what other advanced words are waiting to be decoded?
Let's tackle one that often gets misused in academic circles: peruse.
Peruse. I'll admit I've been guilty of using this one incorrectly myself. I always thought it meant to quickly skim through something.
That's a very common misconception. In reality, peruse means to read thoroughly and carefully. It implies a close and attentive examination of a text, not a hasty glance.
So if I said I perused the report before the meeting, it would mean I'd given it a very close read, not just skim the headings.
Precisely. Using peruse correctly conveys a sense of diligence and attention to detail. It suggests you've really absorbed the information.
This is another one of those aha moments. I'm realizing that using these advanced words correctly can signal a certain level of intellectual rigor. It shows you're not just skimming the surface.
Exactly. It's about choosing words that accurately reflect the depth of your engagement with the topic.
All right, bring on the next advanced word challenge. I'm feeling more and more confident with each one we tackle.
Let's see if you can crack the code on this one. Nonplussed.
Nonplussed. This one seems tricky. I've heard it used to describe someone who's calm and collected under pressure. Like, even though the presentation went wrong, she remained nonplussed.
That's a clever guess, but it's actually the opposite. Nonplussed describes a state of being surprised and confused, often to the point of speechlessness. It's that feeling of being caught off guard and unsure how to react.
Wow, so it's almost like being speechless with shock.
Exactly. Nonplussed implies a momentary loss of composure, a sense of being bewildered. It's that deer in the headlights feeling.
That makes so much more sense. I can see how misusing this word could lead to some awkward situations.
Indeed, it highlights the importance of understanding the nuances of these advanced words. They can have a big impact on how our message is perceived.
Okay, what other advanced word adventures await us? I'm ready to expand my vocabulary horizons.
Let's explore a word that often gets used in a way that diminishes its true impact. Plethora.
Plethora.
I usually think of this word as meaning a lot of something, in a positive way, like there was a plethora of fun activities to choose from at the festival. That's a common interpretation. But plethora carries a slightly different nuance. While it does mean an abundance of something, it often implies an excessive or overwhelming amount.
Okay.
It can sometimes even suggest a sense of burden or inconvenience.
Interesting. So it's not just about having a lot of something, it's about having maybe too much of it, like it's overflowing.
Precisely. Imagine a situation where you're bombarded with information or faced with an overwhelming number of choices. That sense of being inundated can be captured by the word plethora.
So if I were to say, I have a plethora of emails to respond to, it would imply that I'm feeling a bit swamped by them, not necessarily excited about having a full inbox.
Exactly. It's about that tipping point where abundance starts to feel like excess. It's about that too much of a good thing feeling.
I'm starting to see how using plethora correctly can add a layer of sophistication to my descriptions. It's a much more nuanced way of expressing abundance than just saying, a lot.
It's about choosing words that convey not just the quantity, but also the impact of that quantity.
This is making me realize how much I've taken these words for granted, what other advanced words are hiding in plain sight, waiting to be understood.
Let's delve into one that's often misused in discussions about facts and information.
Factoid.
Factoid. This one seems pretty straightforward. I always thought it just meant a small or trivial fact.
That's how it's commonly used, but its original meaning is a bit more nuanced, even controversial. The term factoid was actually coined to describe something that appears to be a fact, but is actually false or unsubstantiated.
Right, really? That's a completely different meaning.
That's the risk with using factoid in its original sense. It implies a degree of skepticism or even doubt about the validity of the information being presented. It can be a way of highlighting that something may sound like a fact, but it hasn't actually been proven true.
This is a perfect example of how language can evolve and shift in meaning over time. It's important to be aware of both the common usage and the original intent behind a word. You're absolutely right. Language is a living, breathing thing that constantly adapts and changes. Our goal is to be aware of those changes and use words in a way that is both accurate and effective.
So how can we use factoid in a way that doesn't accidentally spread misinformation?
If you're unsure of the accuracy of a piece of information, it's best to avoid using factoid altogether. You could say something like, here's an interesting tidbit, or this might be a bit of trivia, but this avoids any implication that the information might be false.
That's really helpful advice. Okay, bring on the next advanced word. I'm ready to conquer some more linguistic complexities.
Let's tackle a word that often causes confusion in discussions and debates. Moot.
Moot? I've always thought of this word as meaning irrelevant or pointless. Like that argument is moot because the decision has already been made.
That's a common understanding, but it's not entirely accurate. While moot can relate to something that's no longer relevant, its original meaning is a bit more nuanced. It originally referred to a matter that is open for debate or discussion.
So if a topic is moot, it's not necessarily pointless. It just means there's room for further discussion or consideration.
Precisely. Imagine a legal case where the circumstances change, making the original point of contention no longer relevant to the outcome. The issue might be considered moot, not because it was unimportant, but because it's no longer central to the case.
That's a really helpful clarification. So it's less about the topic being irrelevant and more about its significance having shifted or diminished.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging that the context has changed, and the original point of debate may no longer be the primary focus.
I'm definitely feeling more enlightened than moot after tackling that one. What other advanced word adventures await us?
Let's wrap up our exploration of advanced words with a pair that often trips people up: infer and imply.
Infer and imply. The classic conundrum. I know these words are related to drawing conclusions, but I often mix them up.
It's a common confusion. The key difference lies in who is doing the action. The speaker or writer implies something, meaning they suggest or hint at something without stating it directly. The listener or reader infers something, meaning they draw a conclusion based on what is implied.
So if I were to say, it's getting late, I might be implying that it's time to go, even though I haven't explicitly said so.
Exactly. And if you, as the listener, understood my implication, you would have correctly inferred my meaning.
I see. So it's a two-way street. The speaker sends out a subtle signal, and the listener picks up on that signal and draws a conclusion.
Precisely. It's like a subtle dance of communication where meaning is conveyed through suggestion and interpretation.
This distinction is so subtle, but it's crucial for clear communication. Misusing these words can lead to all sorts of misunderstandings.
Absolutely. Mastering the difference between infer and imply is essential for navigating conversations and interpreting written texts accurately. It's about understanding both sides of the communication equation.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. It's amazing how much depth and complexity there is to these seemingly simple words.
And we've only just scratched the surface. But I hope you're starting to see how understanding the nuances of language can empower you to communicate with greater clarity and precision.
I'm definitely feeling a lot more confident about using these words correctly. It's like a whole new world of linguistic possibilities has opened up.
And that's the beauty of language learning. It's an ongoing journey of discovery and refinement. Are you ready for a quick challenge to test your newfound knowledge?
Absolutely. Bring it on. All right. Hit me with that word challenge. I'm ready to put my knowledge to the test.
Okay. Let's see if you can recall the true meaning of nonplussed. Without looking back at our discussion, take a moment to think about it.
Okay. No peeking. I think I've got it. Nonplussed means to be surprised and confused, almost to the point of speechlessness. It's like that feeling of being completely thrown off guard and not knowing how to react.
That's absolutely correct. You've successfully decoded nonplussed. It seems our deep dive has truly expanded your vocabulary horizons.
I'm feeling pretty proud of myself right now. This whole experience has been eye-opening. I've realized that using words correctly isn't just about sounding smart. It's about communicating effectively and ensuring that my message is understood.
It's about wielding the power of language with precision and care. Choosing words that accurately reflect not only what we want to say, but also the subtle nuances of meaning we wish to convey.
You know, it's funny because I used to think that vocabulary was just about memorizing definitions. But this deep dive has shown me that it's so much more than that. It's about understanding the history, the etymology, the subtle shades of meaning that make each word unique.
It's about recognizing that words are not static, but dynamic. They evolve over time, their meanings shifting and adapting to reflect the changing world around us.
And that's what makes language so fascinating. It's a living, breathing entity that connects us to the past, informs our present, and shapes our future.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I encourage you to continue exploring the fascinating world of language. Pay attention to the words you use, the words you encounter, and the way they impact your understanding of the world.
I know I will. This has been such a rewarding journey. I'm walking away with a newfound appreciation for the power of words and the importance of using them correctly.
Remember, language is a gift, a tool that allows us to connect, create, and inspire. Let's use it wisely.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
Happy wordsmithing. Okay, so let's be real for a sec. Small talk, right? It can be like the most awkward thing ever. Like when you're stuck in a situation and you know you should be chatting, but your mind just goes blank. Anyone else? Feel me on that. But get this. What if I told you that this deep dive could actually turn that dread into pure confidence? And we're going to do it using a source you'd never expect. A video script, get this, for people learning English.
I know, right? Sounds a little out there. But seriously, this script is full of stuff that goes way deeper than just language. It's like a secret masterclass in how humans connect, hidden inside an English lesson.
Okay, I gotta admit, when you first mentioned this source, I was kind of like, how can something for total beginners help someone who's already fluent?
That's fair, totally. But the cool thing here is, by breaking small talk down into these simple steps, it actually shows you the psychology behind how we connect. Like, it's a cheat sheet for building rapport, even if you never needed help with English in the first place.
So it's more about understanding the, deeper game, not just memorizing lines.
Exactly. For example, the script makes a big deal about greetings and weather talk, stuff we might think is just filler.
Yeah, I always thought that stuff was kind of pointless.
Right. But they actually serve a super important purpose. Like, humans are literally wired to bond over shared experiences.
Okay.
Even something as simple as complaining about the heat or, whatever the weather's doing.
Okay, yeah, I guess I can see that.
It creates that instant common ground, that we're in this together feeling, which is huge for starting any kind of connection.
Wow, that's actually so true. I never thought about it that way.
And the script goes even further. Instead of those boring old greetings like, "Hi, how are you?" it gives you phrases that fit the specific situation so you get a better response.
Oh, I like where this is going. Give me an example.
So say you're at a party. Instead of that robotic, "Hi, how are you?" try something like, "What brings you here?"
Way more interesting, right?
Way more. It's like you're actually interested, not just saying words. Exactly. It shows you're paying attention and they actually get to share something about themselves. It's what they call a strong bid in, like conversation analysis stuff. Each thing we say is a bid to connect.
Ooh, I'm digging this bidding concept. So we're all just out here trying to make the strongest bid to connect.
Totally. And this script is giving us all the winning moves. Another one they have is, instead of just saying nice weather, you could say something like, "This weather's crazy, right?"
It's like inviting the other person in on the joke. I like it. So it's making small talk feel, I don't know, less robotic. But what really stood out to me was the role-playing part.
Ah, yes. That's where the magic really happens. The people who made this script, they get it. Knowing the right words isn't enough. You got to actually practice using them. And role-playing is the best way to do that.
But what if you don't have someone to practice with? Isn't that kind of, I don't know, weird to do alone?
For sure. But you can totally do it in your head. It's called mental rehearsal. Basically, you just picture yourself in different situations.
Hold on. So you're saying by just imagining myself rocking these small talk moments, I'm actually getting better at it in real life?
You got it. might sound a little strange, but neuroscientists have found that when you rehearse something mentally, your brain fires up the same way it does when you're actually doing the thing.
No way. That's so cool. It's like training your brain for social situations, like a cheat code for confidence. I'm already feeling less terrified about networking events or, just parties in general.
It's crazy, right? How powerful our brains are. Like, this script really shows you how to use that power to, level up your social skills.
I like that, level up. So we've talked about greetings, weather talk, even practicing in your head. What else does this script have up its sleeve?
Okay, so one thing that really impressed me was the questions. They go way beyond those typical boring questions like, where are you from? Or what do you do? The usual suspects.
Yeah, those can be so snooze fest sometimes.
Right. Instead, they give you all these questions that are actually interesting, designed to, spark real conversations.
Okay, I'm all about those real conversations. Tell me more. Give me the good stuff.
So instead of asking, what do you do? Which can feel kind of like a job interview, they suggest asking, what do you like to do for fun?
I mean, that's a classic for a reason, right? It gets people talking about what they're actually passionate about.
Exactly. It's like you're inviting them to show you their real selves, not just their, LinkedIn profile. And if you really want to go deeper, you could try something like, what's the most interesting thing you've done lately?
Ooh, I like that one. It's like a sneak peek into their adventures. You might even discover you have some cool stuff in common.
Totally. Plus, it shows you're actually curious about them, not just trying to fill the silence. And they even have specific questions for different situations. Like, if you're at a dinner party, you could ask, have you tried any good restaurants lately?
Perfect. Everyone loves talking about food. Instant conversation starter, right there.
It's true. It's something we can all relate to, like enjoying a good meal. Okay, so we've covered greetings, weather talk, asking interesting questions, even mental rehearsal. But what about when you're ready to, make your escape? Does this script help with that too?
Yeah, like how do you end a conversation without being rude?
Don't worry, they got you covered. They have a bunch of different closing phrases depending on the situation. From a simple, it was nice talking to you, to something more like, hey, we should grab coffee sometime.
Oh, I love that they include those follow-up suggestions.
Yeah.
Sometimes you really do click with someone, and it's good to have a way to, keep things going.
Exactly. It shows you're confident and interested, which is always a good look. And even if they can't meet up, it still leaves a good impression. They'll remember you as someone who actually wanted to connect.
Yeah, it's like planting a seed, right? You never know where those initial conversations might lead. What about those times when you just need a quick, casual exit, though, like you're running late or something?
No problem. They have those too. They suggest things like, catch you later or have a great day. Those are perfect for keeping it light and friendly without feeling like you have to, hang around forever.
Okay, so whether you're aiming for a lifelong friendship or just a quick chat, it sounds like this script has given us a whole toolbox for navigating the social world.
Yeah. It's like they took all the guesswork out of small talk and gave us a clear path to follow. It's pretty amazing.
And what's so cool is that this script, even though it's for people learning English, it actually shows us some really deep things about human connections, like a reminder that we all want to feel understood, even in those little everyday conversations.
So true. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so valuable. We're not just learning phrases, we're learning about what makes us human and how even a short conversation can make a difference, create a ripple effect.
It's like we're seeing the world through a whole new lens now, right?
Yeah.
And that brings us to the best part, putting it all into practice. We've talked about a lot today, the different phases of small talk, how to make a bid for connection, even practicing in your head. But now it's your turn, dear listener. Take these ideas and make them your own.
Yes. This is where the real transformation happens. We've given you the tools. Now it's up to you to use them. And remember, you don't have to be perfect. The goal isn't to become some kind of small talk robot.
Exactly. Be yourself, be genuine, and use these techniques to connect with people in a real way. So let's recap the top 3 things we've learned from this unexpected deep dive into, mastering small talk. First, small talk isn't just random. There's a structure you can follow to make those conversations flow.
Second, the words you use actually matter. This script has given us tons of phrases that are interesting, thoughtful, and perfect for different situations.
And third, practice, practice, practice. Whether you're practicing in your head or even role-playing with a friend, the more you do it, the more confident and natural you'll become.
It really is freeing, right? Yeah. Knowing you have these tools, it takes away that fear of messing up or saying the wrong thing.
For sure. It's like having this I don't know, secret weapon for social situations. And honestly, the biggest thing I'm taking away from this is small talk doesn't have to be something you dread. It can actually be like fun, a way to connect with people,
100%. What about you? What's sticking with you from all this? What did you find most helpful from looking at this script?
It's funny. I think what resonated most was realizing that everyone, even people who seem super outgoing, they've probably felt that awkwardness too. This script shows that small talk is a skill, like something you can learn and get better at, just like anything else.
Right. It's not like some people are born knowing how to do it and others aren't.
Exactly. It takes so much pressure off. You can just approach those conversations with curiosity, like a little game. Just see what happens.
I love that. A little game. It really can be like an adventure,
Yeah.
discovering something new about someone, even if it's just a tiny thing.
And it reminds you that even those small moments, a quick chat, a smile, they can all make a difference. It's like we're all connected in this big web, and every conversation adds to that,
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into, well, the surprisingly interesting world of small talk, I want to leave you with this. Think about the next time you are in a situation where you know there's going to be some small talk. Maybe it's a party or a work event, even just grabbing coffee. What are you most excited to try out from all the stuff we talked about?
Such a good question.
Yeah.
And hey, remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Just be yourself, be genuine, and see what happens. You might be surprised how fun and even meaningful those small conversations can be. So go out there and conquer the world of small talk. We believe in you.
Welcome to this deep dive, everyone. Today we're going to be exploring, well, actually, your English learning journey using a script for a video for English language learners. It's going to be like a deep dive within a deep dive, really. So no matter where you're at, beginner, advanced, somewhere in between, there should be something here for you.
Yeah, I think it's so cool how this script uses like real stories from other people learning English, to like inspire. It's like we're all on this journey together,
Totally. And speaking of journeys, the script starts off by asking this big question, right? What made you want to learn English in the first place? The why behind your adventure, basically. They give this example of a learner, Anna, and her goal was she just wanted to watch TV, without subtitles. And what I thought was so cool about that was it was totally, coming from her, she just wanted to do it, not because someone told her she had to or anything.
Right.
Those are the best reasons,
Right.
when it comes from inside.
Yeah, for sure. Knowing your why can really make a difference, I think, especially when things get tough, When you hit a wall or you just don't feel like studying, it's like having a compass to keep you, heading in the right direction.
I love that, the compass. So I'm curious, what was your why, when you started out? Take a second to think about that. It's worth, revisiting it as you keep going, too. Now, the script also digs into how, where you are can affect your learning. It gets that not everyone can be, surrounded by English speakers all the time, but it kind of challenges us to get creative.
Yeah. This story about Raj really stuck with me. He lives in this village where literally no one speaks English. And so he basically turned his whole house into this learning tool, sticky notes everywhere using English for everyday stuff. It just proves you don't have to be in some English speaking country to learn it well.
It's amazing, right? Talk about resourcefulness. He didn't wait for the perfect situation. He just made it himself. And this actually leads perfectly into what the script talks about next. How to, take all that time we waste and turn it into learning time.
Oh yeah, like when you're scrolling on your phone or whatever and it's not even fun anymore.
Exactly. But imagine if you could use that time to learn instead. The script mentions Maria, and she would spend 30 minutes every night on, I think it was TikTok, and she swapped that for English learning videos, and guess what? In just a couple of weeks, her vocabulary, exploded.
Wow.
See? Totally doable. And what's even cooler is you can do this throughout your day, right? When you're commuting, waiting in line, even just doing chores. You can listen to podcasts, use apps, just sneak in little bits of English here and there.
Yeah. Just make it a part of your life, The more you can do that, the more natural it all feels.
Exactly. The script then kind of switches gears and talks about common mistakes that can, slow you down. And this is where I think your expertise is going to be so helpful. One of the first things it mentions is getting too hung up on grammar, to the point where you're not even really speaking. It's easy to just memorize all the rules, but language is really about talking to people, right?
Absolutely. Grammar's important. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes I think it gets too much focus, it's more important to be able to speak fluently and confidently, even if you mess up a little. It's about finding that balance, I think. What do you think?
Oh, 100%. I totally agree with that. You could know all the grammar in the world, but if you can't have a conversation, what's the point, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's like you learn how to play an instrument, but then you never actually play any music.
Exactly. You just practice scales all day long.
Mm.
Okay, so the script's next point, I think this is something we've all dealt with, being scared to make mistakes. I mean, every language learner goes through that, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I think it's so important to, like, change how we think about mistakes. They're not like failures. They're actually like feedback.
Yeah.
Each mistake is a chance to learn and get better.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. It takes the pressure off, And this kind of leads into the third mistake they talk about in the script, which is not practicing regularly. We've all been there, right? Like crazy study sessions and then nothing for weeks.
Yeah, I've totally been there. It's always better to do a little bit every day than a lot all at once.
Yeah.
It's like you wouldn't go to the gym once a month for 8 hours and expect to see results. You got to be consistent.
So true. Short, consistent workouts, that's the key. Like the script mentions this learner who went from like these huge study sessions every now and then to just doing 30 minutes a day every day. And they saw way more progress.
It's amazing, right? How much difference just a little bit each day can make.
Yeah.
Our brains, they actually learn better that way too, through repetition and like slow exposure, not cramming.
So instead of trying to do it all at once, just find little ways to fit English into your day, right?
Exactly.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit and look at what the script says about, learning English if you don't live in an English-speaking country.
Yeah.
Which can feel like a huge obstacle, but the script has some pretty encouraging examples.
Yeah, I was really interested in that part.
It comes back to what we were saying before about creating that immersive environment, even without actually being around English speakers. And technology can really help with this, right?
Oh, totally.
Like apps for language exchange, online forums, even streaming services with subtitles.
There's so much out there.
Right. Like in the script, they talk about Marco from Spain, and he basically made like his own little English world at home, reading news in English, watching English YouTubers, even talking to friends online from other countries.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's like bringing the English-speaking world to you.
You don't even have to get on a plane.
Exactly. Which leads perfectly into the script's like final challenge, focus on output.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just understand English. You got to use it, by speaking or writing.
Yeah, that's where the real learning happens, I think. Getting out there and actually using the language. I know it can be scary at first, but the more you do it, the easier it gets.
The script suggests a few things you can try, like recording yourself speaking and then listening back to see what you can improve.
Well, that's a good one.
Or joining a speaking group, or even just writing like a short paragraph in English every day.
I like that.
Just little things to get you practicing,
The key is to find what works for you and then make it a habit. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Even 5 minutes a day can make a difference in the long run.
And as we start wrapping up this deep dive here, I think one of the most important things to remember is learning English, it's a journey, right? And every little thing you do, it brings you closer to your goals.
That's a great way to put it.
It's not about being perfect. It's about making progress. I mean, we've talked about so much, right? Like from that whole why thing to making your own little English world. But what really sticks out to me is how much the script is all about, like, doing stuff.
Oh, yeah, totally. You can't just sit there and like, hope you'll learn English.
Right. You got to get out there and use it. And remember how we talked about making mistakes? The script wants us to think about those differently, too.
Yeah, they're not like the end of the world.
They're actually how you get better.
Like little stepping stones.
I love that. So as we wrap up this whole deep dive into learning English, I have one question for you. And it kind of goes back to that output thing we were talking about. What's one small step you're going to take this week to actually use your English?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Could be anything, really. Record yourself talking for a minute, write an email in English, even just chat with someone online.
It doesn't have to be this big, huge thing.
Exactly. Just something small but consistent.
Like we were saying before, 5 minutes a day, it all adds up.
We've explored a ton of tips today and heard some pretty inspiring stories. I bet there are a few that really resonated with you.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So think about those and how you can use them in your own learning. And remember, learning English, it should be fun, not a chore.
Totally. It's an adventure.
Embrace those challenges, celebrate how far you've come and never stop exploring. Happy learning, everyone. Okay, so ready to dive into something kind of interesting.
Always.
All right, so this masterclass script we found claims it can get you to advanced English fluency
Oh, wow.
in just 1 hour.
Okay.
Pretty bold claim, right?
Yeah, an hour to fluency.
Yeah, so we're going to break it down, see if it lives up to the hype.
That's good.
You know, maybe you're someone who's prepping for a presentation or just brushing up on your English skills. Or maybe you're just curious about language learning hacks. Whatever your reason, we're going to dig into this script, see what it offers.
Unearth those nuggets.
Exactly. Unearth the nuggets, see what it really has to offer.
Yeah.
And what I thought was interesting is right away, it kind of skips the usual grammar drills and vocab lists.
Right.
It jumps right into like the practical stuff, how to sound more confident, how to adapt to different situations, really just connect with your language.
I like that. That's a good approach.
Yeah, I thought so too.
It's very practical.
Yeah, and one of the first things it encourages you to do is use contractions naturally.
Okay.
You know, like saying, I've done it differently instead of, I would have done it differently.
Yeah, yeah.
Simple, but it makes your speech flow better, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. It does.
And that leads right into this idea of connected speech.
Right.
You know, the script points out how native speakers often link words together.
Right.
So, for example, what do you want to do becomes what I want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
It might feel a little awkward at first,
Yeah.
but it's a key to sounding more natural.
Yeah, I agree.
So I can see how that would take some getting used to, especially if you've been trained to pronounce each word carefully.
Absolutely.
But I can also see how it would make you sound more like a native speaker.
For sure.
Now, the script also doesn't shy away from some challenging vocabulary either.
Oh, okay.
So there are words like ephemeral, resilient, ambivalent, even ostentatious and serendipitous.
Wow.
Do you think they chose those words for a specific reason or just trying to impress people?
Well, I think it's a mix of both.
Okay.
Because, expanding your vocabulary is important.
Right.
But they are carefully chosen to be kind of memorable
Yeah.
and impactful. Like they use ephemeral to describe a sunset.
Oh, right.
It kind of helps you grab the meaning of the word,
Yeah,
but then also appreciate the nuances of it.
that's a good point.
Yeah,
It's not just about sounding smart. It's about using the right words to express yourself clearly.
exactly.
And speaking of colorful language, they've also included some idioms in this.
Okay.
Things like burning the midnight oil, bite the bullet on the same wavelength.
Right.
Are those common idioms that someone might encounter in everyday conversation?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Idioms can be tricky because their meaning isn't always clear,
Right.
but they add so much personality
Yeah.
and cultural flavor to your English.
Like on the same wavelength is a good way to describe clicking with someone.
Right, when you're just like, we get each other.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that one too. You could easily use that in conversation, whether you're networking or just hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to something the script emphasizes quite a bit, pronunciation.
Right.
It's not just about saying the words correctly.
Right.
It's about intonation,
Yes.
stress, and rhythm.
That's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
They even point out how just changing the stress on a word can change the meaning entirely.
Yeah, like photograph versus photography.
Exactly.
Yeah, simple shift, but a world of difference.
A big difference.
It's amazing how much nuance there is to pronunciation.
For sure.
And the script actually encourages you to play around with it.
Oh.
They suggest you practice different sentences with rising and falling tones
Oh, interesting.
to see how it changes the meaning
Yeah.
of what you're saying.
I like that. So pronunciation is definitely a key element of sounding more fluent.
It is, for sure.
But the script doesn't just give you these tips and leave you to figure it out on your own.
Right.
They actually try to tie it all together in a real-world scenario,
Oh,
a networking event.
interesting. Okay.
And it's not just a generic script about exchanging business cards or whatever.
Right.
They've woven in those elements of fluency that we've been talking about. So they suggest starting with a confident introduction, but then using a more engaging question to spark a real conversation.
Ooh, I like that.
Something like, what inspired you to get into your field?
That's a good question.
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, it's open-ended, shows genuine interest,
Right.
and it avoids those typical small talk cliches.
Exactly.
So-
I like that question too. And they encourage you to build on that initial connection. Instead of just nodding and saying, that's interesting,
Right.
they suggest transitioning smoothly with a comment or a question that shows you're actively listening.
Yeah.
Something like, That's fascinating. Have you considered expanding into other markets?
Oh, nice.
What do you think?
Yeah, I like that. It shows you're engaged, you're thoughtful. Yeah.
So this networking scenario is where they try to bring all the pieces together.
Okay.
It's where you can put those fluency techniques into practice.
Right.
But the big question remains,
What's it?
can you really achieve all of this in just 1 hour?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical about achieving complete fluency in such a short time.
Okay.
But the script does a good job of highlighting the most important areas to focus on. I think it gives you a taste of what's possible, and that's a valuable starting point.
So maybe it's more about giving you a framework, a set of tools and techniques that can help you continue to develop your fluency. It's like a jumpstart, not a complete overhaul.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it succeeds in that.
Okay.
The script is packed with practical tips and exercises.
Yeah.
And even if it takes you more than an hour to master everything, you can start implementing some of these strategies right away.
So it's not about instant fluency, but about gaining valuable insights and building a solid foundation.
Exactly.
And speaking of building a foundation, I'm curious what the script says about practice and immersion.
Yeah.
After all, even the best techniques won't get you very far without consistent effort.
You're absolutely right. Fluency is a journey, not a destination. You've got to immerse yourself in the language as much as possible. Speak fearlessly. Constantly reflect and refine your skills.
So it's not just about completing the masterclass. It's about integrating these techniques into your daily life.
Exactly.
Making English a part of your routine.
That's the key.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
But there's much more to unpack.
Lots more.
So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll explore even more tips and strategies for achieving advanced English fluency.
Looking forward to it. Welcome back. So last time, we were talking about how this script emphasizes practical skills over rote memorization.
Right.
We touched on connected speech, vocabulary building, even using idioms effectively.
Yeah.
But we left off on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Oh, yeah, pronunciation.
Yeah, that whole pronunciation piece.
The script suddenly turned into a vocal coach.
Right.
Yeah, urging you to pay attention to things like intonation, stress, and rhythm.
Exactly.
So I'm ready to dive deeper into those pronunciation secrets. Where do we start?
Well, we already touched on how word stress can completely change a word's meaning.
Right, like with photograph versus photography.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the script takes it a step further. It highlights sentence stress as well.
Oh, okay.
It shows you how emphasizing different words within a sentence can dramatically alter its meaning.
Okay, do you have an example?
Of course. So they use the phrase, I didn't say H.E. stole the money.
Okay.
Now imagine stressing each word in turn.
Right.
You could be accusing different people.
Oh, wow.
Or even denying the accusation entirely just by shifting the emphasis.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Like it adds a whole other layer of meaning.
Right.
Yeah, beyond the words themselves.
Exactly.
And then there's intonation, the rising and falling tones of our voice.
Yes.
So the script suggests practicing with simple phrases like, I can't believe it. With a rising tone, that's amazing. With a falling tone.
Yeah.
Do those small changes really make that much of a difference?
Absolutely. Think of it like adding punctuation to your spoken words.
Oh, okay.
A rising tone at the end of a sentence can turn a statement into a question.
Right.
While a falling tone can express certainty, finality.
Okay.
It's crucial for conveying your meaning and sounding more natural.
So it's like adding emotion and emphasis to your words.
Excellent.
Is this something that people often struggle with when learning English?
It can be.
Okay.
Especially for learners whose native languages have different intonation patterns.
Right.
But the good news is it's something you can improve with practice.
Okay, good.
The script even suggests recording yourself speaking.
Oh, wow.
And listening back.
I know. It can be cringy.
It can be, but it's a great way to identify areas where your intonation might need a little work.
Yeah, for sure. I can see how that'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little embarrassing at first.
That's a good tool.
So are there any other techniques that the script recommends for improving pronunciation?
Well, they suggest some interesting exercises.
Okay.
Like repeating phrases while exaggerating the intonation and stress patterns.
So just really going over the top with it.
Yeah, it might feel silly, but it helps to really internalize the rhythm and flow of the language.
I'm all for silly if it works.
Me too.
Like a workout for your voice.
Exactly.
Let's go.
Another technique is called shadowing. where you listen to a native speaker and try to mimic their pronunciation and intonation.
Oh, interesting.
You can use podcasts, audiobooks, even movie scenes.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like having a personal pronunciation coach right in your ear.
Exactly. Plus, it's a fun way to immerse yourself in the language.
And speaking of immersion, the script emphasizes that a lot.
Right.
It encourages you to surround yourself with English as much as possible.
Yes. Watch movies, listen to music, read books, chat with native speakers if you can.
Yeah.
The key is to make English a part of your daily life.
Not just something you study in a textbook.
Exactly.
You know, it's interesting they bring up immersion
Yeah.
because earlier when we were discussing those advanced vocabulary words, I was thinking, how often is someone really going to use a word like ostentatious in casual conversation?
Right.
But if you're immersing yourself in the language, you're bound to come across it in different contexts.
Exactly. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Immersion helps you absorb those nuances of the language in a way that just memorizing definitions can't.
Right.
You start to understand how words are used in different situations.
Yeah.
You develop a more natural feel for the language.
So immersion isn't just about practicing speaking.
Right.
It's about absorbing the language through listening, reading, and watching.
Yes, making it a part of your overall experience.
Okay, let's shift gears for a moment and revisit that networking scenario.
Right.
I'm curious to hear more about how they incorporate all these fluency techniques into that real-world situation.
Sure. So you remember that the scenario starts with a confident introduction,
Right?
but then they encourage you to move beyond the typical small talk. Ask a more engaging question.
Like, what inspired you to get into your field?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that question.
It's a great way to show genuine interest
Right.
and start a more meaningful conversation.
What else do they recommend?
They suggest transitioning smoothly to related topics. Showing that you're actively listening and adding to the conversation. You might say something like, "That's fascinating. Have you considered expanding into other markets?"
Okay, yeah.
Keeps the conversation flowing, and it allows you to showcase your knowledge and insights
Right.
without being too pushy.
It's all about finding that balance
Yeah,
between being confident and being engaging.
for sure.
Not an easy feat.
No, it's not.
But this scenario seems to provide a pretty solid framework
It does.
for navigating those tricky social interactions.
Exactly.
Okay, so they've covered introductions, engaging questions, smooth transitions, even closing the conversation gracefully.
Right.
But can you really master all that in an hour?
Well, like we said earlier, fluency is a journey,
Right?
not a destination.
Yeah.
So while an hour might not be enough to make you a master networker,
Okay.
this scenario provides a valuable blueprint.
Right.
And you can adapt these techniques to other social situations as well.
So it's about taking those core principles, confidence, clarity, adaptability,
Yes.
and applying them to any interaction where
Yeah.
you want to communicate effectively in English.
Exactly.
And that brings us to the final section of the masterclass script.
Okay.
Remember those 3 key tips they emphasized?
Immerse yourself.
Dig fearlessly.
Reflect and refine.
Right. This seemed like pretty solid pieces of advice,
Yeah.
but what do they really mean by immerse yourself?
Right.
Are they talking about moving to an English-speaking country?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
While that would certainly be immersive,
Right.
there are plenty of ways to create an English-speaking environment wherever you are.
Okay.
You can watch movies and TV shows with English subtitles, listen to podcasts and audiobooks,
Right.
read news articles and blogs.
Okay.
Key is to find something you enjoy and make it a regular part of your routine.
So it's about making English a part of your everyday life,
Exactly.
not just something you study in isolation. Okay, what about that second tip? Speak fearlessly. That's easier said than done for a lot of people.
It is, yeah.
Any advice for overcoming that fear?
Well, the script encourages you to kind of reframe your thinking about mistakes.
Okay.
Instead of seeing them as failures, view them as opportunities to learn and grow.
It's about embracing the journey
Exactly.
and accepting that you're not going to be perfect right from the start.
Exactly. The more you speak, the more comfortable and confident you'll become.
Right.
Don't be afraid to seek out opportunities to practice,
Okay.
whether it's with a language partner, online communities, or even just talking to yourself in English.
Those are great suggestions.
Yeah.
Now, what about that last tip? Reflect and refine. What are some concrete ways that someone can put that into practice?
Self-awareness is key here.
Okay.
Record yourself speaking English, listen back to it.
Right.
Take note of areas where you could improve. Maybe it's pronunciation, maybe it's grammar, maybe it's the flow of your sentences.
Right. Yeah.
The act of listening to yourself critically can be incredibly revealing.
For sure. And these days, there are so many tools to help you do that.
There are.
Like language learning apps often have recording features.
Mm-hmm.
And you can even find online communities that are dedicated to pronunciation practice.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of simply paying attention to how native speakers use the language.
Oh, okay.
Listen for those subtle nuances of pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm.
Right.
The more you observe and imitate, the more natural your English will become.
So it's about being a conscious learner,
Yes,
actively seeking out feedback, and working on those areas where you want to improve.
exactly.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive.
We have.
We explored pronunciation techniques, the importance of immersion. We even revisited that networking scenario,
We did.
and we dug into those 3 key tips for continued learning.
Yes.
Immerse yourself, speak fearlessly, reflect and refine. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into this masterclass, the one that promises to unlock advanced English fluency in just an hour.
Yeah, big promises.
Huge! So we've unpacked a lot of those strategies.
Really?
We've experimented with pronunciation, even explored that networking scenario.
Yep.
Now let's step back, consider,
All right.
what are the real takeaways here?
What are the gems?
What can someone actually use to boost their English fluency?
Good question.
So it's been quite a journey, right?
It really has, yeah.
We've gone from those kind of building blocks of fluency, confidence, clarity, adaptability,
Right.
to some very specific techniques
Yeah.
like connected speech, mastering intonation, even sprinkling in some of those colorful idioms.
For sure.
I think we even played vocal coach for a while,
We did.
trying out some of those pronunciation exercises.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was fun. So as we wrap up, what stands out to you as the most valuable takeaway from this whole thing?
For me, it's the focus on practical application.
Okay.
This script doesn't just throw a bunch of rules at you.
Right.
It gives you concrete examples, it encourages you to experiment, and it even puts you in a real-world situation.
Yeah, like with that networking event.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about taking those concepts and making them usable in your daily life.
Yeah, it's not about reaching some level of perfection.
Right.
It's about using the language to connect with others, to express yourself,
Yeah,
to navigate the world around you.
for sure.
And it reminds you that fluency is an ongoing journey.
It is.
It's not a destination.
Not at all.
You know, early on, I was pretty skeptical about that whole fluency in an hour thing.
Yeah, me too.
But I have to admit, this masterclass offers a pretty solid springboard for anyone who wants to improve their English.
Absolutely.
It gives you a taste of what's possible
Yeah.
and inspires you to actually take action.
For sure.
So for our listener who's been with us this whole time, taking it all in, what's the one piece of advice you would leave them with?
I would say don't wait for perfection.
Okay.
Just start speaking.
Right.
Embrace every opportunity to practice.
Yeah.
Even if it feels a bit awkward at first, every mistake is a learning opportunity.
That's true.
Each interaction brings you closer to fluency.
I love that. It's about taking those small steps,
Yeah.
being consistent, and celebrating those wins along the way.
Exactly.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey.
Not at all.
There are tons of resources out there, language learning apps, online communities, podcasts like ours,
For sure.
all there to support you.
Absolutely.
So find what works best for you. Stay curious.
Yeah.
Never stop exploring the language
I like that.
and have fun with it.
Yes.
Learning a language shouldn't feel like a chore.
No, it should be enjoyable.
It should be enriching.
Absolutely.
So embrace the challenges, celebrate your successes, and never stop trying to be the most confident and fluent version of yourself. That's a perfect note to end on. So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into English fluency.
It's been fun.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights.
Yeah.
And feel inspired to continue your own journey.
Absolutely. And now that you've heard all this, what's one area of your English fluency that you're going to focus on? Until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and keep those language fires burning.
See you next time.
All right, so are you ready to dive in? Today, we're going to help you sound like, well, a natural English speaker.
Like you were born speaking it, right?
Exactly. And we're going to do that with a script.
Oh, a script. For what?
It's for a video for English language learners.
Cool. What's the topic?
Phrasal verbs.
Ah, phrasal verbs. Those can be tricky.
Yeah, they can be, but this script it breaks them down by learner level.
Yeah, well, that's helpful. So we can...
Yeah, so we'll sort of jump around, find the most interesting parts no matter what your level is.
Yeah, let's uncover the secrets of sounding natural and fluent.
Exactly. So I was looking at the beginner section, and it's funny how many...
Beginner section, okay.
Yeah, so, basic phrasal verbs. And some of them are so common we don't even think about them.
Like what?
Like get up. I mean, we all do it every morning.
It's true, we do. Or go to sleep. These are things we do every day.
Right. And even something like sit down. It's not just about taking a seat. It's like an invitation.
Yeah, it sets the scene, like sit down, dinner's ready, or please sit down, make yourself comfortable.
Exactly. It adds a whole other layer of meaning.
And it's so natural.
And, another one that I thought was interesting is turn on and turn off.
Oh, yeah, we use those all the time.
Like turn on the lights, turn off the oven.
It's like we're constantly interacting with our world through these verbs.
And they often come in pairs, right?
Ooh.
With opposite meanings.
Learn one. You got the other one too?
Yeah. And another pair, put on and take off.
Oh, yeah. Clothes, shoes, you name it.
Exactly. You put on your clothes in the morning, take them off at night.
And again, it's so natural, so effortless.
It is. It's like a hidden code.
A code to unlock fluency.
I love that. Okay, what about pick up? That one's interesting because you can have multiple meanings.
Yeah, you can pick up a book, pick up your friend from the airport.
Right. The context is key.
It tells you what it means.
It's like a puzzle, but a fun one.
It is. Okay, another fun one. Look for. Everyone's always looking for something.
Right. Your keys, your phone, that missing sock.
Have you seen my keys? I've been looking for them everywhere.
Exactly. And it's not just about physical objects.
You can look for a solution to a problem, look for information.
You're right. It's about a search, a quest.
And we're always on a quest for something, aren't we?
That's a great point. Okay, so we've talked about some pretty basic phrasal verbs.
Yeah, just the tip of the iceberg.
But now I want to get into some that add a bit more color.
Oh, yeah, let's spice things up a bit.
Let's express some feelings, some opinions.
Let's dive deeper.
I'm ready. Are you?
Let's go! It's amazing, right, how phrasal verbs can be so simple, but also so expressive.
Yeah, it's like they add this whole other level of meaning.
Exactly. Like give up, for example.
Oh, yeah, give up. We've all been there.
Right. That feeling of, I can't do this anymore.
Like when I tried to make that, that 3-tiered cake for my friend's birthday, I almost gave up.
Oh, no. What happened?
The first layer, it just collapsed.
Oh, that's frustrating.
It was. I wanted to throw in the towel, but he didn't.
Well, good for you, perseverance. But you see, that's what give up captures, that feeling.
It does. Okay, what about run out of? That seems pretty basic.
It does, but it's not just about having nothing left. It's like there's a sense of urgency.
Urgency. How so?
Like running out of time on a deadline.
Oh, yeah, or running out of patience.
Exactly, or even running out of gas in your car.
That's a good one. Okay, what about call off? Is that the same as cancel?
Well, they're similar, but call-off is more sudden, more unexpected.
Oh, I see. Like calling off a wedding.
Exactly, or calling off a search.
Wow, that does add a sense of drama.
It does. It's like everything's changing.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. What about look after? That seems pretty simple.
It does, but it's more than just watching something. It's about taking care of it,
Oh, like looking after a child or a pet.
Yeah, or even a plant. You're responsible for it.
You're right. There's a sense of responsibility there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this one I find interesting. Find out.
Find out. It's like discovering something new.
It is. Like a secret.
Exactly. You can find out the truth, find out someone's secret.
Or find out how a story ends.
Right. It's all about that moment of revelation.
It is. Okay. And speaking of moments, what about work out? Now, that one has multiple meanings.
It does. You can work out at the gym.
Right. Get those muscles working.
Or you can work out a problem.
Find a solution.
Exactly. So versatile, right?
It is. Okay, how about throwaway? It seems pretty straightforward.
It does, but think about it. It's not just about getting rid of something.
What else could it be?
It can be about letting go, like throwing away old ideas, old habits.
Wow, I never thought of it that way.
It's like a fresh start.
I like that. Okay, last one for this round. Catch up. Now, that one sounds pretty social.
It is. It's about connecting with people,
Yeah, like catching up with friends.
Exactly. Or catching up on work if you've been away.
Oh, right. So it can be social or professional.
It can. It's about bridging that gap, whatever it may be.
I like that. Okay, so we've covered some pretty interesting phrasal verbs so far.
We have, and we're just getting started.
I know. Are you ready for the advanced level?
Bring it on. I want to see what other gems we can uncover.
Okay, let's dive in. Okay, so we're back and ready to tackle some advanced phrasal verbs.
The big leagues.
I know, right? But honestly, looking at some of these, I'm a little intimidated.
Oh, which one's got you stumped?
Well, like put up with, for example. It just seems so negative.
It can be, yeah, but sometimes you need to express that feeling, like tolerating something.
Okay, I see what you mean, like putting up with noisy neighbors or something.
Exactly. Or a long commute, or even bad weather. It's about dealing with those less than ideal situations.
Okay, that makes sense. What about bring up? That one seems a bit more, I don't know, delicate.
It is. It's about introducing a topic, but in a smooth way.
So not just blurting something out.
Right. Like if you want to talk about something sensitive, you bring it up carefully.
Right. I get it. Okay, now this one I always struggle with. Back out. Does it always make you sound unreliable?
Not necessarily. It can mean changing your mind, but it doesn't always have to be negative.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, imagine you agreed to go to a party, but then you get sick. You have to back out.
Oh, right. So it's not like you're breaking a promise. It's just a change of plans.
Exactly. It's all about the context.
Context is key.
Yeah.
Okay, what about step up? That one sounds more positive.
It is. It's about taking action, taking responsibility.
Like stepping up to a challenge.
Exactly. Or stepping up to help someone.
Oh, I like that. Okay, take over. Now that one sounds a bit intense.
It can be. It's about taking control of something.
I'm just taking over a company.
Yeah, or even something smaller, like taking over the cooking when your friend's tired.
Right. It's about being in charge. Okay, last one. Break down. That one seems like it has a million meanings.
It does. A car can break down. A plan can break down. Even a person can break down.
Wow, so many possibilities. It's amazing how one phrasal verb can be so versatile.
It is, and that's the beauty of phrasal verbs. They add so much color and nuance to the language.
I totally agree. Well, I think we've broken down quite a few phrasal verbs today.
We have, and hopefully our listeners feel more confident using them.
Exactly. Remember, it's all about practice and having fun with the language.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how you learn.
That's right. So, to all our listeners out there, keep exploring the world of phrasal verbs. And who knows, maybe you'll even discover some new favorites along the way.
And if you do, be sure to share them with us. We'd love to hear about your phrasal verb adventures.
Until next time, happy learning. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep into the English-speaking job market today.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Think of this deep dive like your secret weapon for decoding all that tricky job hunting lingo.
I like it.
We've got some great source material lined up that's basically a crash course on everything from resumes to interviews to all that good stuff.
It's really fascinating, actually. What I found really interesting about these sources is that they don't just define the terms.
Right.
They really get into the strategy behind them,
Oh, that's
It's like they've taken all the best advice from career coaches and hiring managers and distilled it all down into these really actionable tips.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
Resumes.
Oh,
Right? Everyone's favorite topic, right?
the bane of our existence.
I know. But seriously, our source material highlights something really crucial here.
Okay.
The power of strong action verbs.
Yes.
And I don't just mean like using managed instead of did. It's about getting way more specific and impactful with your word choices.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's about thinking about, okay, if you're a software developer, instead of saying developed a website, you could say led a team of 5 to develop a user-friendly website that increased customer engagement by 20%.
Whoa.
See the difference?
Okay, yeah. That's way more powerful.
Right.
It's not just about what you did.
Yeah,
It's about the impact you made.
exactly. And that's what employers want to see, results.
Hmm.
So I have a challenge for everyone listening.
Ooh, I like a challenge.
Pull up your own resume.
Okay.
Take a look at those verbs.
All right, I'm doing it right now.
Are they doing your skills justice?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Could you swap them out for something stronger, something that really showcases your accomplishments?
I love that little homework assignment.
There you go.
All right, so you've got your resume packed with power verbs.
Check.
Now you need a cover letter to really seal the deal.
Yeah.
This is where a lot of people get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
But our source material breaks down the purpose and structure in a way that's super clear
Yeah.
and actually kind of inspiring.
It is.
Yeah.
You know what I found really interesting here is that the source emphasizes how a cover letter is your chance to show your personality.
Okay.
Your resume is all facts and figures, But the cover letter is where you can let your passion and enthusiasm shine through. It's where you connect with the employer on a human level.
So it's not just a summary of your resume.
Yeah.
It's almost like a mini story about why you're the perfect fit
Precisely.
for this specific role.
Yes. And you know what else I found really helpful?
What's that?
The source material talks about the importance of the call to action in the closing paragraph.
Oh,
It's not just about saying thanks for your time.
yeah.
It's about proactively expressing your eagerness to move forward in the process.
Okay, so it's like, hey, I'm ready for that interview. Let's do this.
Exactly.
Okay, I've got the killer resume and a compelling cover letter.
We're doing good.
Now we need to find the right jobs to apply for.
Are the fun part.
Yeah. So our source material dives into decoding job postings,
Okay.
like how to read between the lines and figure out what employers are really looking for.
Yes, and this is where things get strategic.
Ooh, I like it.
The source material gives this great tip about using keywords from the job posting to tailor your resume and cover letter.
Oh, that's smart.
It's about speaking their language, showing them that you understand their needs and that you've done your homework.
It makes sense if you're an employer and you see a resume that's clearly tailored to your specific job posting, shows that the applicant is serious and invested.
Absolutely. And it's not just about keywords.
Okay.
It's about understanding the underlying problems that the company's trying to solve. What are their pain points?
Right.
How can your skills and experience help them overcome those challenges?
Ooh.
If you can articulate that
Yeah,
in your application materials, you'll definitely stand out.
that's such a good point. Okay, let's move on to some of the more foundational elements
Yes.
of the job application process.
Okay.
Qualifications, experience, and references.
The classics.
I know our source material covers the basics here, but it also includes a really important insider tip about references
Oh, yes.
that I think a lot of people overlook.
This is one of those things that seems obvious, but it's crucial.
Oh, really?
Always get permission before listing someone as a reference.
Oh.
Not only is it common courtesy,
Okay.
but it also gives your reference a chance to prepare
Oh, that's good.
and make sure they're comfortable speaking about your qualifications.
Yeah, you don't want to catch someone off guard
Exactly.
and potentially like sabotage your chances.
Right. It's much better to have a few enthusiastic references who are ready to sing your praises
Yes.
than a long list of people who are hesitant or unprepared.
Okay, so you've submitted your application
Fingers crossed.
and you get the call for an interview.
Yay.
Exciting but nerve-wracking, right?
Oh, for sure.
Our source material acknowledges this and really emphasizes the importance of preparation.
Absolutely.
And they offer some really practical advice
Okay.
for tackling one of the most common interview questions.
Which is?
Tell me about yourself.
Oh,
I know this is where so many people stumble,
I know I do.
but it's actually a golden opportunity to make a strong first impression.
It is.
Yeah, I always find myself like fumbling through that one.
Me too.
So what's the secret?
The key is to craft a concise and engaging response that highlights your relevant skills and experience.
Okay.
And then this is the crucial part, connects them back to the specific role you're interviewing for. You're not just reciting your resume.
Right.
You're telling a story that demonstrates why you're the perfect fit for this particular job.
It's like you're saying, here's who I am, here's what I'm good at, and here's how I can contribute to your team.
Exactly.
I like it.
And you know what else I found helpful?
Tell me.
The source material suggests practicing your response out loud,
Oh?
even recording yourself,
Ooh, that's a good idea.
so you can hear how you sound.
Yeah.
You want to come across as confident and enthusiastic,
Right.
not robotic or rehearsed.
That's such good advice.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people focus on what they're going to say, but forget about how they're going to say it.
Totally. And remember, an interview is a two-way street.
That's true.
It's not just about answering their questions. It's about asking your own questions.
Right.
To get a feel for the company culture
Yeah.
and whether it's a good fit for you.
That's a great reminder.
So we've talked about resumes, cover letters, and interviews.
We are on a roll.
Now let's dive into the world of networking.
All right, let's do it.
Our source material defines it as building relationships to discover job opportunities.
Okay.
It's about making connections and expanding your professional circle.
I like that.
But what's really interesting here is that the source goes beyond the traditional idea of networking.
Okay.
At formal events,
Right.
they talk about the importance of building relationships online.
Oh, like LinkedIn.
Exactly, through platforms like LinkedIn and even through casual conversations with people in your field.
Wow. I love that. It's like networking doesn't have to be this stuffy, formal thing.
Yeah.
It can happen organically through genuine interactions.
Absolutely. And, sometimes the most unexpected connections can lead to the most amazing opportunities.
That's so true. Okay, before we move on, I want to touch on a topic
Yes.
that's often a bit awkward.
Uh-oh.
Perks and pay.
The money talk.
I know it's important to be prepared to discuss salary expectations
Yes.
during the interview process.
It is.
But how do you even approach that conversation?
Well, our source material has some excellent advice on this.
Okay, good.
It emphasizes the importance of researching average salaries
Okay,
for similar roles in your location.
that makes sense.
Knowledge is power when it comes to negotiation.
Right.
You need to know your worth and be able to articulate it confidently.
You don't want to undersell yourself or price yourself out of the running.
Exactly. And it's not just about salary.
All right.
It's about understanding the entire compensation package, benefits, vacation time, professional development opportunities.
All that good stuff.
All of it.
Okay, this is all great information.
I know, right?
But I'm curious, what about different work styles?
Oh, yeah.
Full-time, part-time, freelance contract work.
It's a whole new world out there.
There's so many options these days.
You're absolutely right. And our source material actually does a fantastic job of breaking down these different work styles.
Okay.
And encouraging you to think about which one aligns best with your lifestyle and career goals.
That's so important. There's
Yep.
no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. It's about finding the work style that allows you to thrive both professionally and personally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what's really fascinating is that the traditional 9-to-5 office job
Yeah.
is becoming less and less common.
It's true.
More and more people are opting for remote work, flexible schedules, and even starting their own businesses.
I love to see it.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part.
We have.
We've talked about crafting a powerful resume,
Check.
writing a compelling cover letter,
Sure.
acing that interview,
Check.
networking like a pro,
Check.
and even navigating the tricky waters of salary negotiation and work style options.
We did it.
But there's so much more to explore.
I know. In part 2, we're going to dive even deeper into the English-speaking job market.
Ooh, exciting.
We'll tackle those subtle but oh so important workplace dynamics,
Okay.
cultural nuances, and communication styles that can really make or break your success.
Can't wait. Welcome back. So we just finished talking about finding the right work style.
Yeah.
But actually landing the job is just the first step.
Right.
Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of what it's like to navigate the English-speaking workplace.
Okay.
And I gotta say, some of these source materials are giving me flashbacks
Really?
to my first office job.
Ooh.
Good times, mostly.
That's good.
It's like there's this whole hidden curriculum
Totally.
that no one tells you about.
Right.
You learn the job description, sure.
Yeah.
But then there's this whole other layer
Yeah.
of workplace culture, unspoken rules, communication styles.
Oh, yeah.
It can be a lot to figure out.
Totally. And our sources don't just skim the surface here.
No.
They get into some really interesting and sometimes awkward aspects of office life.
Okay. Give me an example.
Okay, like, remember that whole thing about probation periods?
Uh-huh.
I always thought that was just paperwork stuff.
Right. But the source material we have really digs into the strategy behind it.
Okay.
It points out that probation periods are a chance for both the employer and the employee to assess if it's a good fit.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's not just about keeping your head down and doing your work,
Okay.
It's about actively demonstrating your value and exceeding expectations.
Okay, that's a good spin on it.
Yeah.
View it as a proving ground.
Not just a waiting period.
Exactly.
Speaking of proving yourself,
Yeah.
our sources also cover job descriptions,
Okay.
but in a way I hadn't really thought of before.
What's that?
What I found fascinating here is they emphasize how job descriptions are often just the starting point.
Oh, interesting.
As you settle into a role,
Yeah.
your responsibilities might evolve.
Right.
You might take on new projects or even find yourself collaborating with different teams.
Ooh.
So it's not about being confined by that job description,
Okay.
but being open to growth and taking on new challenges.
Exactly. And the sources even tie this back to the idea of promotions, suggesting that going above and beyond your initial job description
Oh, wow.
can actually position you really well for advancement.
Okay, so it's like always be looking for ways to add value,
Yes.
even if it's outside the strict lines of your job description.
Yeah.
But how do you balance that with,
Yeah.
not burning yourself out?
Right. That's important.
Yeah. Our sources talk a lot about work-life balance,
Yes.
which feels super relevant these days.
It is. It's a hot topic, and the sources highlight that it's not just about clocking out at 5 p.m.
Right.
It's about setting boundaries, prioritizing your well-being,
Okay.
and making sure you have time for things you enjoy outside of work.
I think it's also about recognizing that everyone's definition of balance is different.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another.
That's a great point. And the sources actually suggest having open conversations
Okay.
with your manager or team
Yeah.
about your individual needs and preferences.
Yeah.
It's about finding a balance that works for both you and the company.
Okay, so we've talked about navigating your role within a company,
Yeah.
but let's talk about the people and, dare I say, the drama. I mean, our sources get real about office politics.
It's one of those topics people kind of dance around, but it's definitely a reality in most workplaces. What I found really helpful is that the sources break down office politics
Okay.
into a few key elements.
Like what?
Well, they talk about understanding the informal networks and relationships
Okay.
within the company.
Sure.
Who are the key influencers? Who are the decision makers?
Yeah.
And how do those dynamics actually play out?
So it's not about being gossipy or manipulative.
No.
It's about being aware of the power structures
Right.
and navigating them in a way that's both ethical and effective.
Exactly. And it also ties back to something we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Networking, the stronger your relationships are within the company,
Yeah.
the better equipped you'll be to navigate those sometimes choppy political waters.
Okay, that makes sense. Speaking of navigating,
Yes.
our sources also get into something that can be really tricky,
Okay.
especially in a globalized world, and that's cultural nuances.
Right, like what flies in one culture might be a major faux pas in another.
Exactly. This is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The sources don't just provide a list of do's and don'ts.
Right.
They encourage you to approach cultural differences with curiosity and respect.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like instead of assuming you know what's appropriate, ask questions, observe how others interact,
Right.
and be willing to adapt your communication style.
Absolutely. And it's not just about avoiding offense. It's about building trust and understanding across cultural boundaries.
Okay, so we've talked about navigating office politics
Yes,
and cultural nuances.
we have.
Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of communication itself.
All right.
Our sources are full of vocabulary related to workplace conversations, meetings, and emails.
It's a lot.
I know. Yeah. What's interesting is they don't just define the terms.
Okay.
They give you tips for using them effectively.
Ooh.
Like, for example, they talk about the importance of active listening
Yes.
in meetings.
It's so important.
It's not just about hearing what's being said. It's about engaging with the ideas, asking clarifying questions, and really demonstrating that you're paying attention.
Right. So like nodding and saying, every once in a while
Yeah.
isn't going to cut it.
Not exactly.
Active listening is about being present and engaged, both verbally and non-verbally.
Okay.
It's about making eye contact, taking notes,
Right.
and even summarizing what you've heard to make sure you understand correctly.
Got it. Active listening.
Check.
What else do we need to know about communication?
Well, the sources also talk about the importance of giving and receiving feedback effectively.
Okay, feedback.
It's not just about praising good work or pointing out mistakes. It's about providing constructive criticism
Right.
that helps people grow and develop.
Okay, I think we all know how important that is,
Yes.
but it can be so tricky to do well.
It is, and the sources acknowledge that they recommend focusing on specific behaviors, not personality traits,
Okay.
and framing feedback in a way that's solution-oriented.
So it's not about blaming or shaming.
Yeah.
It's about helping people improve.
Exactly.
That's a really good distinction, and I think it ties into the whole idea of creating a positive and supportive work environment,
Yeah,
which, let's be honest, can be tough sometimes.
it can, but our sources have some great insights.
Good.
On fostering a healthy workplace culture. They talk about the importance of clear communication,
Okay.
mutual respect, and a sense of shared purpose.
So, like, it's not just about being friendly.
Right.
It's about creating a space where everyone feels valued and respected,
Yeah.
and where they can contribute their best work.
Exactly. And it also ties into something we touched on earlier,
What's that?
teamwork. The sources really emphasize the importance of collaboration,
Okay.
both within teams and across departments.
I like that.
It's about recognizing that everyone has something valuable to contribute, and that working together is essential for achieving shared goals.
Right. So we've talked about navigating workplace dynamics,
Yes.
cultural nuances, communication styles, feedback, and teamwork. Is there anything else we need to know before we venture out into the wilds
Oh, I like that.
of the English-speaking workplace.
Well, there's one more topic our sources highlight that I think is really important, and that's mentorship.
Okay, mentorship.
They emphasize the value of having a more experienced person
Yeah.
who can offer guidance, support, and insights as you navigate your career.
I've heard about that, but I always thought it was something you had to, formally apply for.
It can be, but the sources suggest that mentorship can also happen organically
Oh, okay.
through relationships you build within your company or even within your professional network.
So it's like be open to learning from people who have more experience than you.
Right.
And don't be afraid to ask for advice or guidance.
Exactly. And it goes both ways.
Oh, that's a good point.
As you gain experience, you can also mentor others and share your knowledge and insights.
That's a great point. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part.
We have.
We've talked about navigating workplace dynamics, cultural nuances, communication styles, feedback, teamwork, and even mentorship.
We're really getting into the nuances of what it takes to thrive
I know.
in the English-speaking job market.
We are.
But there's still more to explore in part 3. We're going to dive even deeper into those sometimes unspoken rules of workplace etiquette,
Ooh.
those subtle but oh so important cues
Yeah,
that can make all the difference in how you're perceived.
can't wait.
Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into the English-speaking job market.
Ooh, the grand finale.
I know we've covered so much ground already. Resumes, interviews, networking, office dynamics, you name it.
All the things.
But there's one last layer we need to explore,
Okay, I'm intrigued.
and it's all about those unspoken rules
Oh,
of workplace etiquette.
the do's and don'ts.
Exactly, because let's be honest, sometimes it's the little things that make the biggest difference.
It's true.
And our source material gets in some really interesting nuances here,
Okay.
especially around email etiquette.
Oh yeah, email, the double-edged sword of workplace communication.
You can say that again.
It's so convenient, but it's also so easy to make a mistake
Right.
that can damage your professional image.
So true. I remember this one time I accidentally replied all to an email that was, let's just say, not meant for everyone's eyes.
Oof, we've all been there.
Not my proudest moment.
But the good news is
Ah.
our sources offer some really helpful tips for avoiding those email faux pas.
Okay, good.
Like, for example, they emphasize the importance of starting with a professional salutation.
Right.
Dear Mr. or Mrs. last name is always a safe bet,
Yeah.
unless you're on a first name basis with the person.
Right. And even then, it's probably best to err on the side of formality,
Yeah.
at least until you get a sense of the company culture.
Exactly. And the sources also talk about keeping your emails concise and to the point.
Oh.
No one wants to wade through a wall of text.
So bullet points are our friends.
Absolutely. And avoid using slang
Great.
emojis or excessive exclamation points.
Voted.
You want to project an image of competence and professionalism.
And proofread.
Yes.
Typos and grammatical errors
The worst.
can make you look careless and unprofessional.
So true. Okay, so we've mastered the art of email.
We're on a roll.
Now let's talk about another potential minefield.
Okay.
Meeting etiquette.
Ooh, yes. Meetings, love them or hate them, they're a part of almost every job.
It's true.
And our sources highlight some key things to keep in mind,
Like what?
like punctuality.
Yes.
Arriving on time shows respect for everyone's time and demonstrates your professionalism.
And I think it also shows that you're organized and prepared, which is always a good look.
Right. And once you're in the meeting,
Yeah.
the sources emphasize the importance of active participation.
Okay.
Contribute to the discussion, ask clarifying questions, and offer your insights
Yes.
when appropriate.
But also know when to listen.
Yeah.
Don't dominate the conversation or interrupt others.
It's all about balance.
It's about finding that balance between being engaged and being respectful of others.
And one more thing, put those phones away.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're expecting an urgent call, it's incredibly disrespectful
It is.
to be scrolling through social media or texting during a meeting.
It's like you're saying, I'm not really interested in what you have to say.
Okay, so we've talked about email etiquette and meeting etiquette.
check.
Now let's get into something a little more juicy.
Ooh, tell me more.
Our sources actually touch on the topic of workplace gossip.
Ah, yes, the water cooler whispers. It's inevitable in any workplace.
It really is.
But it's definitely something to navigate carefully.
Because even if you're not the one spreading the gossip,
Yeah,
just listening to it can make you complicit.
that's true. And the sources recommend resisting the temptation to engage.
Okay.
In negative gossip, it can damage relationships and create a toxic work environment.
Instead, try to steer the conversation
Yes.
towards more positive topic. Or, if you feel uncomfortable, politely excuse yourself.
And remember, what you say about others reflects on you. It's always best to err on the side of discretion and kindness.
Okay, gossip averted.
He did it.
Now let's talk about something that's essential for success
Yeah.
in any workplace,
Mm-hmm.
but especially in an English-speaking environment. Conflict resolution.
Oh, this is where those communication skills we talked about earlier really come into play.
Yeah.
The sources emphasize approaching conflict
Okay.
with a calm and respectful attitude.
Because getting defensive or emotional is only going to escalate the situation.
Exactly. The key is to listen actively to the other person's perspective.
Mhm.
Try to find common ground.
Okay.
And focus on finding a solution that benefits everyone involved.
Avoid personal attacks and emotional outbursts.
Yes.
Remember, it's about addressing the issue, not the person.
And if you can't resolve the conflict on your own,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to involve a neutral third party like a manager or HR representative.
Okay, conflict resolved. We're on a roll.
I know, right?
Now let's touch on one final, but incredibly important
Hit me with it.
aspect of workplace etiquette,
All right.
cultural sensitivity.
This is especially crucial in today's diverse workplaces.
Yeah.
It's about being aware and respectful of different cultural norms, values, and communication styles.
Like, for example, in some cultures, direct eye contact is considered a sign of respect, while in others it can be seen as aggressive or confrontational.
Exactly. And there are so many other nuances to be aware of personal space humor, even the way you give and receive gifts.
So it's really about being mindful during
Yeah.
your research and being willing to adapt your behavior to different cultural contexts.
And if you're ever unsure about something, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
It's better to clarify than to unintentionally offend someone.
That's a great point. Cultural sensitivity is really about fostering an inclusive and respectful work environment
Absolutely.
where everyone feels valued and respected.
Wow, we've covered a ton of ground
We really have,
in this deep dive.
from crafting that perfect resume.
When mastering the art of workplace etiquette,
We've given you a comprehensive toolkit for navigating the English-speaking job market.
we did it.
Remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
So true.
Stay curious, keep learning,
Mm-hmm.
and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yes. And most importantly, believe in yourself and your abilities.
Now, before we sign off, we'd love to hear from you. What are some of the most interesting or confusing workplace scenarios you've encountered?
Ooh, good question.
Share your stories and insights with us. We're all ears.
Until next time, happy job hunting.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at idioms for expressing feelings.
Oh, yeah. Idioms. Those are fun.
Yeah, and I think they can be kind of tricky to learn, especially for people who are, learning English as a second language.
Definitely.
So we're going to try to break them down and make them a little bit easier to understand. And we're going to be using this awesome source material that's organized by emotion.
That's smart.
Yeah, so we'll start with happiness, then we'll move on to sadness, anger, love, and affection, and even embarrassment and shame.
Wow, the whole gamut.
Yeah, the whole emotional roller coaster. So buckle up and get ready for a fun ride.
I'm excited.
Me too.
Ooh.
Okay, so let's dive right in and start with happiness.
Okay.
One of the most common idioms for happiness is over the moon. You know, like, I was over the moon when I got the job.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But where does that even come from? Like, is there really someone living on the moon who's just like super happy all the time?
Uh-huh. Well, some linguists think it might actually be connected to that image of the man on the moon from folklore. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like happiness just launches you right up there with it.
No, never thought of it that way. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so another classic happiness idiom is tickled pink. Like, I was tickled pink when I received that unexpected gift.
It's a cute one.
Yeah, but it kind of sounds a little old-fashioned to me.
You know, it is an older idiom. It actually dates back to the 19th century.
Really?
Yeah. And get this, it used to be tickled pink and blue.
Pink and blue.
Yeah. No one really knows why the blue got dropped, but maybe
Yeah.
it just didn't sound as good.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to another idiom that I feel like I use all the time. On cloud nine.
Oh, yeah, another classic.
Yeah, like I was on cloud nine after my vacation.
It really captures that feeling of pure bliss.
Yeah, like you're just floating on air.
Well, funnily enough, even Cloud 9 has its roots in something pretty practical, meteorology.
Meteorology, you mean like the weather?
Exactly. Early weather maps used to number cloud formations, and the highest, most impressive type was number 9. Wow, so being on Cloud 9 is like being at the top of the weather chart.
Pretty much. It symbolizes peak happiness.
That's amazing. I never knew that.
Yeah, idioms can come from the most unexpected places.
Okay, so we've covered over the moon, tickled pink, and on cloud nine. What other happiness idioms do we have in our source material?
Let's see. We have in high spirits and walking on air.
Ooh, I like walking on air. It really paints a picture.
Yeah, it emphasizes that light, buoyant feeling of intense happiness.
But would you ever use walking on air in a formal setting?
That's a good question. Probably not. It might sound a little too casual.
Yeah, like you wouldn't say, I'm walking on air about this business deal.
Right, exactly. It's all about matching your language to the situation.
So it's kind of like choosing the right outfit for the occasion.
Exactly. You wouldn't wear a ball gown to the grocery store.
True, very true. Okay, so before we move on to sadness, is there anything else we should keep in mind about these happiness idioms?
Well, I think it's important to remember that they often have slightly different shades of meaning.
Oh, like what do you mean?
Well, for example, over the moon implies a more intense, almost ecstatic happiness,
Right.
while tickled pink suggests a gentler, more playful kind of delight.
So it's not just about knowing the definition, it's about understanding the nuance.
Exactly. It's like choosing the right spice to add to your dish.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So we're not just learning words, we're becoming language chefs.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, so now that we've explored the sunny side of things, are you ready to dive into the blue hues of sadness?
Let's do it.
All right, bring on the tissues.
All right, so we're ready to dive into sadness idioms.
Yeah, let's get those tissues ready.
Haha. All right, well, let's start with a really common one, down in the dumps. Like, I've been feeling down in the dumps ever since I lost my job.
Yeah, that one's a classic. But I always wondered, does it actually have anything to do with being in a literal garbage dump?
That's a good question. Well, some linguists believe it might come from the Dutch word damp.
Dump.
Yeah, it means dull or gloomy, so it's more about that heavy, listless feeling than an actual location.
Oh, that makes sense. So it's not about being surrounded by trash. It's about feeling like trash.
Pretty much.
Okay, another sadness idiom that uses color is feeling blue.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, but it seems a bit milder than down in the dumps, right?
You're right. Feeling blue usually suggests a more temporary sadness.
Like a passing cloud.
Exactly. While down in the dumps implies something a bit more persistent.
Like a storm cloud.
Yeah, good analogy. And it's interesting how colors can be so powerful in conveying emotions.
Makes me wonder if blue is associated with sadness in other cultures too.
That's a great point. Actually, in some cultures, yellow or even purple are associated with sadness.
Really?
Yeah, it just goes to show how language and culture are so intertwined.
Okay, so we've got 2 shades of blue sadness. What else do we have?
Well, there's a heavy heart.
Oh yeah, like she had a heavy heart after her grandmother passed away.
Exactly. It uses that physical weight metaphor to convey a deep sadness, often associated with loss.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And then we have crying over spilled milk.
Oh yeah, my mom used to say that one all the time.
It's a classic. But it can be a bit controversial, right?
Yeah, like what if the milk was really important?
Haha. Well, the point of the idiom isn't really about the milk. It's about accepting what's happened and moving on.
So don't dwell on the past?
Right. It's about focusing on the future.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the last sadness idiom we have?
Let's see. It's hit rock bottom.
Oh, that one sounds pretty intense.
Yeah. It's definitely reserved for those moments of utter despair and hopelessness.
Like when you feel like there's nowhere lower to go.
Exactly. It's the emotional equivalent of being at the very bottom of a deep, dark pit.
Okay, well, we've certainly explored the full spectrum of sadness with these idioms.
Yeah, from those fleeting blue moments to the crushing weight of despair.
I'm ready for a little pick-me-up now.
Yeah.
How about we move on to some more heartwarming idioms?
Sounds good to me. Let's explore the language of love and affection.
Okay, I'm feeling a little warmer and fuzzier already.
Or
All right, so we've made it through the ups and downs, the highs and lows of all these emotion idioms.
yeah, quite a range, right?
Yeah. And you know what I think is really cool? How these idioms, they really add a lot of like personality to the language.
Definitely. They're like little bursts of color.
Exactly. It's not just like saying I'm happy. It's like I'm on cloud 9.
Right. It's so much more expressive.
Yeah. And it's not just about memorizing a bunch of phrases either. It's about understanding like the nuances,
Oh, for sure. The origin.
the context, all that stuff.
Yeah, like you wouldn't use kick the bucket to describe someone winning the lottery.
No, definitely not. That'd be a bit confusing.
Yeah, so it's about choosing the right idiom for the right situation.
It's like having a whole toolkit of expressions.
Exactly. And the more you use them, the more comfortable you'll become.
Practice makes perfect.
Exactly. And you know what? Even if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world.
That's right.
Just laugh it off.
Yeah, language is all about having fun.
And experimenting.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I guess I just hope that people will walk away from this with a new appreciation for idioms.
Yeah.
They're really powerful tools for communication.
And don't forget, language is always changing.
Oh, for sure.
So keep your ears open. You might hear some brand new idioms out there.
Yeah. Who knows, maybe you'll even invent one yourself.
That's a great thought. Okay, well, that about wraps up our deep dive into idioms for expressing feelings.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
And we'll catch you next time for another linguistic adventure.